Welcome to the April 11th Winchester Select Board meeting. My name is Rich Mucci. I'm the chair of the Winchester Select Board. Tonight joining me are my colleagues, Vice Chair Anthea Brady, Mariano Gubeloff, John Fallon, and Michael Betancourt. And we'll begin tonight with the town manager's report.
Thank you. So first I have an appointment. In accordance with section 4-2B of the town charter, I have made the following regular full-time appointment in the Department of Public Works School Custodian of Edward Morton of Woburn, and I respectfully request that the board vote to waive the customary 15-day appointment period.
Can I have a motion?
I move that the board waive the 15-day appointment period to appoint Edward Morton to the DPW school custodian.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Great.
Opposed?
Thank you. So next up, I'll just quickly run through my town manager's report. There's a lot happening this spring. It's a very busy time with town meeting and construction starting. So I'll just kind of quickly run through some updates. First, the springtime meeting is scheduled for Monday, April 25th as the first night. Subsequent nights are expected to be held on April 28th, Monday, May 2nd, and Monday, May 9th. The town manager's hearing is scheduled for April 14th, which is this Thursday at 6 p.m. via Zoom. And we'll be discussing later tonight the schedule for the special town meeting for the Waterfield lot. Up on the town's website is a survey for the Middlesex Fells that DCR is conducting along with Friends of the Fells to inform an education campaign encouraging a safe and welcoming experience for everyone who is interested in using the Fells, and I would just encourage anybody to take that survey if you're interested. A couple updates from the Chamber of Commerce. First, I'm really happy to announce that the Chamber of Commerce has been awarded a $45,000 tourism grant from the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism. So that was a great job with them, and we're looking forward to collaborating with them on completing that grant. And then finally, at their president luncheon last week, they announced that longtime Bookends owner Judy Manzo was selected as this year's Citizen of the Year, and Miss Manzo will be honored at dinner on May 17th at the Winchester Country Club. So congratulations to her. Very, very much well deserved. Just wanted to make note of a few openings we have on various boards and committees around town. So first we have one position available on the Committee on Names, 2 alternate positions available on the Disability Access Committee, 1 position available on the EFPBC, and 3 positions available on the Personnel Board. So all of those, the first 3 of those are appointments made by the Select Board. The last one is appointments made by the Town Clerk. So if anybody in the audience is looking to volunteer for the town, there's lots of great opportunities. Next up, construction updates. There's a lot going on in town. I'm not going to go through all that I have in my memo here. I'll just hit some of the highlights. First up, Swan Street Bridge is going to be closed again just for the day next week. Each day next week, it'll be open back up at the end of the working day to facilitate the final paving and other reconstruction of that bridge. MBTA has started the reconstruction project at the Winchester Center Station. You'll see lots of parking space closures in that area. Eversource is here to kind of give an update on the 345 later in the agenda. We'll be starting construction at the intersection of Church Street and Waterfield Road in early May. And then finally, MDBRA will be starting construction on a water main replacement project on Forest Street. Moving on to COVID-related updates, there is a booster dose clinic only scheduled for Thursday, April 21st from 9 to 10:30 a.m. at the Jinx Center, and the clinic is open to anyone ages 12+, and you can register for that on the town's website. And then finally, a couple community notes. There's a safe disposal day for National Prescription Take Back Day on April 30th at the transfer station. And then the Recreation Department has opened their registration for summer programs, so I would encourage anybody who's interested in signing up for any programs this summer to do that as soon as possible. Those programs do fill up. And then finally, we have a lot of job openings in the Recreation Department this summer, so if you or your college, high school age children are interested, that's a great opportunity to work with the town and work with our camps we have available. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Any questions for Beth on her manager's report? Nope. Beth, those positions that are open, are they available to apply on the town website?
They are,
Okay.
yes. Yep.
You can go to the town website if you're interested in applying to get all the information on those boards. Okay. Hearing no discussion, we'll keep moving along here. Next up is, we have a little bit of time for public comment before we have some hearings scheduled. So I'll allow about 10 minutes worth of public comment. Per our select board policy, speakers will be limited to 3 minutes to present their materials. Your topic for discussion must be limited to those items listed on the board meeting's agenda, or items within the purview or scope of responsibility of the select board. All remarks will be addressed to the chair of the meeting and should not be addressed to the individual board members. When you come up, please state your name and the address for the record. So with that, I will open it up to public comment if anyone wishes to make a public comment tonight. All right, seeing, okay, come on up.
My name's Mike McCauley, 28 North Border Road. I'd like to speak about this 40B proposal.
Okay,
Obviously, we're against it, and I've written emails to you guys. We've been down this road before. I don't understand the process we're just going through is local town bylaws that we're just trying to have enforced. Why, I mean, what is this coming up for? Why is this happening again?
so we have an item on our agenda tonight to discuss the Abbey Road, the letter we received from Abbey Road.
Yeah.
At that point, the individual members will comment. Right now is reserved for your public comment to hear, the public's input on that agenda item. And then at that time, we'll open it up to discussion for the board members to discuss.
So all that can fit in there is maybe one unit, from what I understand. The DCR previously only allowed a curb cut for one unit. I don't know if maybe Beth remembers that in the planning board hearings. So I don't know what the town's gonna get out of it if that's what you're looking for, just one unit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a new agenda item. We
Yeah,
haven't even
all right.
had any discussions on it. We'll start those tonight. So when we get there, you can certainly stick around or watch on TV and, see what.
Well, we
so
got a
what's
bunch
going
of us here, we're all against it, just so you know.
Okay.
You guys are probably flooded with emails, so, but, all right.
Thank
That's all
you.
I have to say.
Anyone else for public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll keep moving along. We're a little early for our public hearings. Is Gerard here? Is he here yet? Didn't see him walk in. Okay. We could start with Council on Aging. We're not expecting Tom Howley tonight, right? Okay, so we could move to our business agenda in 1B, and Tom Howley is up for reappointment on the Council on Aging with a term to expire March 31st, 2025. Is there any discussion about reappointing Tom Howley to that position? Hearing none, could I have a motion, please, to reappoint him?
I move that we reappoint Thomas Howley to the Council on Aging for the term to expire March 31st, 2025.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Okay. Yep. Why don't we do the consent agenda? Where we're looking for, looks like a liquor license for Right Lock Farm and the Griffin Museum. So if I could just get a motion for that?
I move that the board approve the consent agenda as printed.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Great. Did we want to try to, we've got about another 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Do we want to try to do the town council contract at this point? 7? All right. So our town council contract expires at the end of June. And so at this point, this is the season where we need to decide whether we would go out to RFP and solicit bids for town council or, negotiate with our current council. So I thought, since this is our last meeting before we start town meeting, that we would discuss it tonight and come to some type of recommendation. So anyone have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think we should go to RFP.
Okay.
had a good run, but why not see what else is out there and whether if there's something that fits us better and maybe at an improved cost.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, initially the town retained Anderson Krieger. Art Krieger was our counsel. He's retiring from the firm. He's had a long run there. Congratulations on your retirement. And we do have representation from other attorneys at the firm, but, I think, seeing what's on the open market might make sense, and see what else is out there, and then evaluate those options as they become clear. And so I'd be in favor of putting out an RFP. I'm not sure what others think, but I think that would be the direction that we should go at this time. Any other thoughts? Hearing none, if there's a motion we could have?
I move that we present an RFP for the town council contract for the upcoming year, or upcoming term.
So it'll be for the fiscal year 2023, right?
I move that we present an RFP for the town council contract for fiscal year 2023.
Second.
I think we direct town we're not putting the RFP out tonight, right?
No.
Okay, so we'll get another vote on putting the RFP out
Yeah,
after we
sorry, I
review
should
it.
have been more
Okay,
clear on the
so I
process.
just want to
So
make
tonight-
sure, okay.
Tonight's vote is just to have town manager
Okay.
staff work on an RFP. We'll then vet that RFP at a different session. So tonight would just be to have the town manager's office start that process.
Okay, so with that understanding, yes, I'll second.
issue the
And
RFP
we'll
once
vote-
we
correct.
Okay, great.
draft.
Sorry, I
Second.
apologize, my fault.
Yeah.
Do you want an updated motion?
Yes, please.
I move that the town manager's office develop an RFP for our review for town council contract, town
Second.
council for FY 2023.
All right, now a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Great. All right, with that, we're right at 7:45, so we can begin the hearing process. We're going to work backwards. We're going to start with the National Grid grant of location. Beth, if you,
Sure. Is someone from National Grid here as well?
come on up.
Hi,
How are
Diane
ya?
Cuddy, National Grid, 40 Sylvan Road, Waltham, Mass.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So the town has received a grant location petition to extend the gas main on Pine Street for approximately 100 feet with new 4-inch gas main to connect an existing main in Curtis Street. The work is being done as part of a larger gas main replacement project on Wildwood Street, Pine Street, Curtis Circle, Dick Street, Glengarry Road, Grassmere Road, and Dick's Terrace. And only this small section requires a grant of location. The remainder of the pipe is existing replacement work. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
That's exactly it. It's an integrity project, so basically we're replacing old main that could be leak prone, could be prone to being having leaks, and then this piece adds it in, making it a complete loop, which increases reliability. So it's sort of both of the programs that National Grid this satisfies. And it's a between 85 and 100 feet extension from Pine Street to tie into Curtis Street.
DPW and engineering have reviewed it and have no comments or concerns.
Concerns, okay. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, I have a question. Are there any identified leaks in the area that could be fixed at the same time that the crews are there to replace this?
If there's any leaks on the system that's being
Not in
replaced-
this specific,
Oh, in other ones?
but within a block or 2 blocks? Because I know there are a lot of leaks that are identified. There's a map of leaks,
Yep.
of gas leaks in town, and we know that a significant portion of natural gas goes towards leaks, and that's a big problem. And so if there are any leaks within a block or 2 of that area and the crews are going to be there,
So for this particular project, like I said, it's an integrity project, which would be fixing any predisposition to leaks in the system that's being replaced. These contracts, these large main replacement projects are done by a contractor that's overseen by a supervisor from National Grid. The leaks themselves, the single individual leaks, are done by National Grid union crews, so it's a totally different group. But we do have a protocol that they grade the leaks, and based on the grading, they have to be fixed within a year or less based on that. So within a year, they should be fixed, the other ones.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
It's just two different
No,
groups,
yeah, I understand the answer, thank you.
Other questions? Hearing no further discussion, could I get a motion, please, Athena?
Hearing.
Oh, sorry, excuse me. I knew I was gonna forget that. You reminded me, too. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to comment on this grant of location for National Grid? Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing on the grant of location for National Grid and move to a vote.
Move that the board approve National Grid's grant of location to install approximately 100 feet of 4-inch gas main installed from a main replacement in Pine Street to an existing main in Curtis Street.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No? Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Next on the list would be an Eversource grant of location. How are you?
How are you?
Good.
You want to, you can,
I can do it, yeah,
Sure,
that's
yeah.
fine. I'm Jackie Duffy, Eversource. We would like to install approximately 71 feet of conduit in Wedgemere Avenue, Winchester, to provide electric service to 19 Wedgemere Avenue.
engineering and DPW have reviewed and have no concerns.
Any questions for Eversource? The board? Okay, hearing none, I will ask if anyone in the public wishes to comment at this public hearing on the grant of location for Eversource. Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing, and I'd ask for a motion, please.
Move that the board approve Eversource's grant of location to install approximately 71 feet of conduit within the public right-of-way. This work is necessary to provide underground electrical service to 19 Wedgemere Avenue.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on, we got one more, we gotta do the cross.
Other people outside for, yeah.
Do you want to bring him in?
For the crosswalk?
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
We're doing the crosswalk now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on, our last public hearing tonight is on the Highland Avenue Hillcrest Parkway crosswalk.
Needed.
What'd you say?
Said needed. I'll walk up. Island.
Come on in. How are you? Are you gonna start this back?
Yep, I'm just gonna wait for you.
Yep. Okay, go ahead, Beth. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're here this evening to talk about the installation of a crosswalk on Highland Avenue at Hillcrest Parkway. This has been a request that we've heard from the neighborhood for many years. Right now, so this is kind of this is Hillcrest Parkway here. This is Highland Ave right here. This is Hillcrest Parkway that loops around, provides access to the fells, comes back down. Again, this is kind of a major trail that goes around the North Reservoir, a connection that people often want to get to. So there's lots of residents who and general pedestrians that are walking in this area. Right now, there is an existing crosswalk at Stone Ave and Highland Avenue, and there's no current way to get across at Highland Avenue at Hillcrest Parkway. And unfortunately, there's no sidewalk on this side, kind of the upper side of Highland Avenue. So when pedestrians get to this point at the end of Hillcrest Parkway, they can either cross here, or continue down this side of Highland Avenue to get to Stone Ave and cross there, or they have to unfortunately cross here where there's no safe crossing. So there's a couple photos I've taken here. This is looking south on Highland Avenue. Hillcrest Parkway is on the left. You can see this is the existing sidewalk in that area. And then as you go further down to the south on Highland Avenue, there's only a sidewalk on the lower side of Highland Avenue. And this is a photo looking north. So what we're proposing is to install a new crosswalk across Highland Avenue, basically where this existing small walkway is, to the area here across between the two driveways on the opposite side of Highland Avenue. It is kind of a challenging area just given the topography and the trees and the location, so we're not actually able to put a crosswalk directly at this kind of intersection here with the driveways and the trees, but it is just a little bit further up the road here at this crossing in front of the house on the corner. So this is what's being proposed. This is the kind of that brown house in the corner you could see in the previous photo. This is the two driveways. There's one here and one here, and the crosswalk will cross between those two areas. And hopefully this will help to address the pedestrian concerns that we've seen and provide a safer crossing for kids, especially those who are continuing down to the middle school and high school, because right now there's no sidewalk on this side of the street, and there's no safe crossing for those pedestrians to get across the street. So that's really all I had for now.
Does the board have any questions for Beth?
Yeah, I have the same question I always have.
Go
Could
ahead.
we put a raised crosswalk there?
So this has actually been designed as part of the larger median island project that the town is working on for Highland Avenue. So that project was funded, the design of that project was funded at town meeting, I want to say in fall 2020 probably, and we've been working with Tool to develop that. We're pulling this section out because we don't have construction funding for the whole corridor. But we wanted, DPW has some funding, they're able to get this done either this spring or this summer, and this is really a needed project. So we're pulling this out of the kind of overall plan to try to get this piece done sooner. We hope to be back in front of the board to present that full kind of corridor plan for that section of Highland Ave with the median islands.
My concern is, I mean, I agree that we need a crosswalk there. My concern is the speeds on Highland Avenue, and a crosswalk doesn't slow anybody down. I mean, we know even a crosswalk with a flashing beacon on Bacon, we had a kid hit there by a
Right.
car while the beacons were on. So I don't see even adding a beacon here would help as far as safety. But I think a speed table, not a speed bump, but a speed table, a raised crosswalk would help. And I've been asking for years to put one somewhere in town to see if it really helps. And I know our neighboring towns and cities have been using them with success. So I'd like to see what it would cost and if we could put one here.
So again, I would just say that this, you can kind of see it right here. There's actually kind of on either end, there'll be kind of like a curb, and that would be done as part of the whole, this was we had Tool do a corridor study for Highland Ave about 2 or 3 years ago now. And this was the priority, was to add median islands to slow traffic down to the entire corridor. So we'd have to go back and see if it would make sense to just pull one piece of that out and put a kind of a raised crosswalk there. It's something we could certainly ask them about. I don't think it's something that DPW would be able to do as part of their current budget. So it would be a kind of a longer term project if we wanted to do something more than just kind of the straight crossing we have shown here.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we could combine a raised crosswalk with the medians, and I think, if we can't do it now, I think we put the crosswalk in anyway.
Sure.
But I think that we shouldn't construct anything that would block a raised crosswalk in that location. I
Yep.
guess that's my viewpoint on that.
Will there be beacons here?
Not at this location. That's not proposed at this point, no.
Other questions, Mike?
Yeah, I agree with what Mariano said. I mean, I think crosswalks where there's no sort of infrastructure change, they're not effective, and they can often be less safe. So, I think that if the RFBs are an option here, I think we should consider it. I don't know how far off we are on funding the larger median project, but that's been sitting there for a long time. And the reason is that was initially really expansively designed was because of the high speeds in Highland, right? And
Yeah.
so now we see there continues to be quite a bit of pedestrian traffic there, and it doesn't seem like existing infrastructure allows for proper protection. So obviously, we don't want to hold anything up, but I think the painting a crosswalk there and doing, you know, a little bit of infrastructure is not going to be really suitable. So, and I know that rapid flashing beacons they're a little
It's probably about $60,000 to do one.
yeah, but I do think that they work. I mean, they're not 100% effective, but I think they do slow people down. I don't know. And certainly any combination of the medians and raised crosswalk, we should get some pricing, consider it, and we should prioritize it with ARPA funding or through our hospital gift account. I mean, this has been sitting around way too long, and there's way too many pedestrians, you know, kids, adults, runners, everyone. It's low visibility and high speed in that area, so it's a terrible combination.
Thank you. Anyone else? Beth, so just so I understand, so Tool's been consulted on this specific crosswalk, and this is their recommendation to put,
Right, so like I said, we have the design plans, or 75% plans for the corridors piece, the median islands, and we've just pulled this piece out of it because it is such a high need for this neighborhood to be able to have a safe crossing here. I totally agree with everything that everybody said here in terms of how we could make it safer. We were just trying to kind of accelerate this piece of it so that we could at least have something out there for folks right now.
any other questions? No? Is there any other staff presenting tonight?
I know Jay's here. I don't know if you wanted to add anything, Jay.
Yeah, no, I'm ready to move forward this project, and hopefully in the next few weeks.
Thanks, Jay.
Do we know the full, I forget what the full cost is. I see Roger's here as well, if we have any,
For the full,
everything.
yeah, I don't know, remember that number off the top of my head. We did submit funding in the last capital cycle, and it wasn't funded. We'll request funding again, and we'll update the cost estimates for
Okay.
that full project.
I
Yep.
forget how much it was.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. I want to say it was like 170, but that's probably 2
Okay.
years ago dollars, so.
So it's 10 times
Yeah.
that amount, yeah, so.
Is it
All right.
180?
It could be.
With the Highland Avenue
It
traffic
is.
improvements?
Yeah,
So about 180,000 at least,
yeah.
looking at the capital queue.
You know, I mean, and I forget if it doesn't seem like we have this article for TTAC, or have we just been funding TTAC with any sort of appropriation? Is that in the budget this year?
No, it's just the capital request.
Yeah, so I mean, we had in the past, when TTAC first started, we kind of had a flat line item of $50,000 going towards prioritizing their projects, and so we removed that. So it just seems like if we do have, it's a higher priority, and we need to kind of come up with more of the money somewhere.
All right. At this point, I would open it up to the public. If there are any public comments on this crosswalk, you're invited to come up to the table. Just raise your hand. Come on up.
Do I need to come up?
Yep, come on up. You could just introduce yourself and what street you live on. Yes, please.
I'm Nancy Neese. I'm at 6 Laurel Hill Lane, so I'm not in the immediate vicinity of this intersection, but I drop my son off here every morning, and I pick him up every afternoon, so I see a lot of the traffic firsthand and the issue with the kids crossing. I'm super glad you guys have already considered this. I was like coming ready to say like all the reasons why you needed to do it, but it doesn't seem like I need to do that, so that's great. But I just mostly wanted to show that myself and my friend Fangli, who originally submitted the proposal back in 2019, are here, and we have a lot of people from the neighborhood that are really eager to support. So just wanted to state for the record, there's a lot of neighborhood support for this.
Great. Thank you very much. Anyone else on this crosswalk? Come on up. Could you state your name and your street for the record,
Yes.
please?
My name is Feng Lei. I live right on the Highland, like the 142 Highland Avenue. So just want to seek for clarification. At this moment, are we talking about, sorry, I don't know much about the signs. So are we only considering like crosswalk with function of a bump, or the bump thing is still in consideration?
So right now, it'll just be handicap ramps. So on either side of the crosswalk, handicap ramps, and then a flat crosswalk at grade on the street.
Okay.
Yep.
So, I'm just wondering whether we will or will not consider some flashing.
I think that there's nothing in what we're doing right now that prohibit that from happening in the future. We don't currently have funding to install the flashing beacons at this location, but it's definitely something that we could consider as part of a future appropriation.
Okay, so if needed in future, there's option that we can upgrade?
Yeah.
Okay. Great, thank you. Thank you for discussing this project.
Welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you for
yeah,
coming.
A lot of kids and neighborhood members, they will benefit to this. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the public wishing to comment? Come on.
Hi, I'm Marina Whittom. I live actually right in front of this crosswalk. My house is the blue house. And I just want to reiterate what everybody else said, that it's much needed. The cars that go by whiz by very quickly. Nobody, I really feel like, follows the speed limit. So it's a very dangerous crosswalk, and a lot of people cross in front of there. So I hope in the future you would consider a speed bump too, because it's, and we've actually had a car slam into our fence too. So it's dangerous. So I'm glad you guys are putting a crosswalk there, but in the future, I think a speed bump would be appropriate too. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one at this point, any other discussion by the board on this?
How much would a raised crosswalk cost versus a rapid flashing beacon?
I don't know, we have someone from school here, but I would say it's probably, it depends on the drainage. So it's probably somewhere on the order of $80,000 to $100,000 would be my guess for a raised crosswalk.
All right, no other discussion? I'd ask for a vote.
I move that the board approve the installation of a crosswalk at the southern end of Hillcrest Parkway and Highland Avenue.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Great.
Thank you.
All right, so that will close our hearings for the evening. We'll go to our business agenda, back to it. So first up on the business agenda, we have an appointment to the Board of Appeals, Gerard Marino, here for, applying to be an alternate on the Board of Appeals. Come on up, Gerard. Yep. Just want to state your name for the record, please.
Gerard Marino.
Thank you, Gerard.
Good evening,
So-
everyone.
You're applying to be an alternate on the zoning board of appeals. Do you want to just tell the board a little bit about yourselves? We did receive your letter and resume.
Sure. So I grew up in Winchester, moved back about 3 years ago. Have started a business here in 2006 and have been maintained it here in Winchester Center. And just firmly believe that it's important to give back to the community in which you live and work. So looking to lend a hand, help how I can.
Questions for Gerard from any of the board members?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mark.
Do you have any business in town that would be a conflict with being on the CBA?
So I have a law practice here. Conflict of interest is a big part of running a law practice. It's the first step in accepting clients. So there's definitely possibilities, and I would have to look at each case individually to see if I've represented that individual or if I merely I do a lot of refinances and purchases where I work for lenders and represent lenders, but I'd also have to cross-reference my client list to make sure there would be no applicants that I've represented personally. So there would be that, but
What about your own developments?
I don't develop anything.
Yeah, were you part of the Forest Ridge, I
No,
believe?
I have
40
7 brothers, and I had a few of them involved in that, but I was not involved in any way.
So your brothers were involved in that, but you were not one?
For Forest Circle?
Yes, Forest
Yeah,
Circle,
I
the
was not
40B
involved in that.
application.
I was not involved in that.
Okay. And you mentioned in your letter that you had colleagues and friends encourage you to apply for this.
Yes.
Who encouraged you to apply?
Chris Mulhern, thought it would be a good asset. Larry Murray. Who else? Just different people I've talked to about it, getting their opinion and their feedback on whether I should volunteer. They thought it would be a good idea, it would be a good service to the town.
Yeah, no, I mean, I appreciate that you're looking to volunteer for the town. I think the ZBA, for somebody whose family has had a 40B application in front of the ZBA and might have one in the
Well,
future.
to clarify, not my family. I have 16 brothers and sisters, and they range from nurses to homemakers to real estate agents to carpenters, and I had 3 brothers involved in that transaction, but not my family.
Okay. Like I was going to say, I think that I appreciate that you're looking to volunteer for the town. I think the ZBA might be too much of a conflict. I think we have positions open, like EFPBC would be a board that has 2 vacancies right now that would benefit from somebody with your experience. So just, I appreciate that you're looking to volunteer, but I think with the issues that we have had with the CBA and with conflicts of interest there, I think the potential for conflict is too much in this case. So that's my opinion.
Sure, appreciate that.
Other questions for Gerard?
Just want to say thank you for applying and being willing to serve.
sure.
As you may know from being in town for a while, the ZBA is it's a lot of work, and it's some of the most thankless but necessary work. And as Mariana said, there's a lot of activity there, and it's pretty litigious. So I think as an alternate, it seems like you'd be in a position to be successful there, but also manage your conflicts pretty well. So so thank you for applying.
Thank you.
Certainly support
Appreciate that.
your application.
Anyone else? Okay. Mariano asked the questions I would have asked you, so I have none. Hearing none, does someone want to make a motion for Gerard?
Yeah, I move we appoint Gerard Marino as an alternate member to the Board of Appeals with a term to expire March 31st, 2024.
Second.
Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No.
No?
So I think it's 3-2. Congratulations, Gerard.
Okay, thank you.
For your service.
Can't back out now, so thanks.
No worries.
All right. Next on the agenda is a capital committee update. I see Jimmy Johnson here. Anyone's joining you, Jimmy, or just?
No, I believe.
Oh, there's Roger.
Roger's
There he was.
here.
He was hiding in the back.
I like being around Roger. He adds to my credibility.
Good to see you, gentlemen. Thanks for coming in.
Good evening. Good evening, new members. Good luck. We are here at our request to discuss a couple of items. Roger's free to chime in at any time because he's a qualified spokesperson. We're here for a 5-year capital plan is developed by department heads, identifying substantially potential needs of this town going forward in the next 5 years. If you remember this, this is a March 14th letter we had sent with an update. Subject is 5-year department capital request. As you can see, it's quite substantial. It's good thinking. It's addressing the major assets of the town. The only problem is there's not quite enough money to pay for them. So we'd like to come back to this committee, saying in general, on an annual basis, we will review and support some of the capital projects going forward. Our primary concerns we have to spend within our budget. This year in our budget, we had approximately, I believe it was $2,275,069 for capital, $2,658,985 for building. Next year looks better based upon some debt being paid off, so we'll have more funds available somewhere around the $3 million number, slightly higher possibly. We'd also like to raise a couple questions. We're supportive of ARCA funding for one-time income versus one-time expenses, and capital certainly would use the money. We'd like it all, but we'll settle for whatever you give us. The other issue is the ambulance fund. If you remember, Roger and I came by way of Zoom last fall, asking for the board to consider setting aside some money annually towards the ambulance. The reason is the ambulance is an ongoing expense. It's a cash cow for the community, and it's kind of tough every, what do we do, about 5 years, Roger?
6.
5 or 6 years for the ambulance. It pushes our budgets, and we felt that it produces so much money that we're requesting a set-aside annually from the general fund, which is where the revenue comes from, to pay towards an ambulance.
Yeah, I remember those discussions.
And I fortunately didn't see it in the budget, but fortunately, if you probably sent the letter to capital, they could catch it and look at it, or we'll haunt you again next year. Roger, do you have anything else to say?
I guess we provided you with this nice spreadsheet of 5-year outlook, and years 1 and 2 in that area are pretty good. They start getting a little bit thin as you go out, and that's natural because it's harder to see the further out you go. The real story is if you look at the last page, where it's been summarized by the Building Stabilization Fund and the Capital Stabilization Fund, what the requests are in any given year, and then also taking a look at the amount of appropriation that's coming in that year, the amount that we currently have obligated due to debt service, how much actual we have left over to spend. This is not an attempt to get down to a accounting level budgeting thing. This is a forest for the trees kind of look at it. But you see that next year in the Building Stabilization Fund, we're gonna be 7 million short of what the requests are gonna be. That's pretty good looking at it in 1 year for 1 year out. And the bottom line, we see the cumulative shortfall, you see that we're rolling up to, over 5 years, over $11 million in the hole. And that just adds on to our cost every single time. That's just the Building Stabilization Fund. You can see that in the Capital Stabilization Fund, we're rolling out to $8 million in the hole at the end of 5 years. And there's always things every year that pop up that we didn't anticipate that's going to add to that. We know that that's gonna happen. So I believe there's this perception that the stabilization funds are going to meet the capital needs of this town, and they don't come anywhere close to meeting the capital needs of this town. We're going to need to come up with some other mechanism to fund some of these larger projects that we have to do. And this is just an attempt for our committee to communicate to the select board that we have this really significant need, and we're hoping to get some sort of feedback and conversation going with you guys as to how we could possibly meet those needs. We're nowhere close to meeting our capital needs. It's kind of silly. And I do believe that largely the town thinks these stabilization funds meet our capital needs. They do not. They do not. So we'd like to have a conversation. Maybe there's some mechanism where we can package up some things together that are in the short term. Maybe we look at, some form of outside funding that, or some form of one-time funding that we put together some of the things that are the most urgent. And I think the town has been very responsive and very open when we go to the town, we say, these are the things that we need to do, and we give them a specific list of things that we want to do, such as when we did Morocco and the final culvert for the flood project. I think the town is responsive to that and understands that when they hear a consistent message. But so I guess we're coming here and asking you to consider something like that. We're way short on where we need to be, and when you see these balances rolling forward, every year that happens, that number goes up. There's no acceleration on any of this. And a good little example is, four years ago, we had to fund some of replacement for the radio systems, for the public safety radio systems in town. We did it as a 4-year project, $125,000 a year. We're now in year 5 of our 4-year program because of acceleration, a little bit of growth, things like that. That's what goes on when we roll all these numbers off to the right, and it just keeps building on itself.
You know, one of the numbers, one of the things we're really not carrying sufficiently is the cost, the additional cost year to year. Cost of escalation, cost of construction, cost of money. So that's something to keep in mind. And like I say, any help you could give us, we'll take it. We'll even say thank you. The ARCA funding is another issue. I know you have an awful lot of demands out there, and it's something that would, on a short term, address some of our concerns for funding if we could get some of those ARCA funds.
So I just have a question about that. Is there some overlap on what's been submitted for ARPA fund requests on this list as well?
I don't
We
believe so.
haven't
We haven't
submitted
submitted any
requests.
funds.
But this was prepared by town departments.
Correct.
Right.
Their 5-year plan. I know it hasn't been vetted by capital, but I didn't know if there's some overlap.
I don't believe so.
So these are all,
Let's leave the door open for a little wiggle room here. Also, I don't know if you want to talk about the revised capital plan going forward in the spring. We can talk about it. It's coming up. And if you'd like to hear a quick overview, I can give you a 2-minute overview.
is this for Springtown meeting?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. We recommend the budget articles from the following for ADA, 125,000, roads and sidewalks, 350, public safety, radios, as Roger mentioned, $125,000, cemetery fund, $70,000. From the water and sewer, we're suggesting $220,000 for the MSA work, $75,000 for a service truck. This would be coming from the water and sewer debt. Capital planning report will be provided. There are closeouts, and Mark and Beth have been working diligently to get every penny they can. Thank you. The South Reservoir Dam is going forward. We're going to be asking for $72,000 for preliminary design.
470.
470. I'm sorry, 470 for preliminary design.
We already got the 72. We've already,
We already got
we've
the
already spent that.
I just looked at the first number. We got 72 already. Lead neck replacement, as you know, it's an ongoing project since about 2017. We're almost there, and we're going to get there.
Can I bring up one thing
Yeah.
about the South Reservoir Dam? We have a wide range of what the construction funding is going to be on that right now. And so some of this 470 is going to allow us to nail down some, a better range on that. But one thing that has come along as we've talked to people, the consultants and things like that, there is money in the infrastructure bill for dams. And we have a really good relationship with our state rep and our state senator, but I think we have like the number 2 congressperson in Congress as our congresswoman. We should be trying, somebody should be trying to make contact with that person to try and help us negotiate. There's money in this infrastructure bill specifically for dams, and I'm willing to bet she doesn't even know that she has 2 large high-hazard dams in her district that are rated in poor condition. And maybe some contact into that office could get us some contacts within the administration on how you apply for money in this way. I'd do it, but it seems really stupid to have like the capital planning committee make contact with the congressperson. I think that it should come from this board. And I'd love it if somebody would sign up and go, yeah, I'll call and give it a try.
Yeah, we could certainly
I'll
do it.
call and give it a try.
We're all gonna volunteer now, Roger. You sold us.
Because that would be really good. Okay, then, fantastic. If we could do that, that'd be great. And whenever I've had a conversation with somebody like this, and if they're willing to help, the conversation always ends with, anything else I can help you with today? Have something else in mind. Get some more for us, too. Just a recommendation.
We're trying. We also have a little issue with the Main Street railing project. a little shortfall. There again, staff is going crazy to reallocate funds to make this work. It will require Article 15, Springtown meeting, but we feel that with the good work staff has done, we're gonna make it work. Also, if anybody's wondering, we got some bridges on Washington and Cross Street. Well, it will be funded in the spring, but we've decided, based upon Beth's suggestions, that we hold off financing it, allocate some money for the permitting and construction process, and we'll come forward back in the fall for funding. We have set aside the money in this budget, so it will be available at the fall town meeting.
Thank you, gentlemen. Questions for Jimmy and Roger? Mariano?
Yeah, on the first part of your presentation, are you looking for us to sponsor a debt exclusion for a number of projects? You talked about putting projects together and going to the voters. To me, that sounds like a debt exclusion. Right?
The sheer number of projects that we have that are in the, $250 to $1.5 million range makes it impossible for these funds to do it, to meet those needs. And yes, if you're asking my personal opinion, this is not something that's been voted by the committee. My personal opinion is that is a logical way forward, that this board looks at these lists of projects, and we would be more than willing to recommend some combination of them, but this board looks at that group of projects and say, look, we think we can put together these things, and the town would support it. I think that would be a very reasonable way to go forward. But we're so far in the hole in terms of our capital needs that I don't see any way out of it without doing that, really, frankly.
I do think we need an alternative funding source, which is right now the only source on a temporary basis is the ARCA funding. On a long-term basis, it's going to be an override. Everybody hates to say it, but I have faith in the public. If the public is given the information, presented well, they have the option to decide which direction they want to go with this town. And always in the past, it's been in a positive direction. So yes, I would support an override for capital, a well-thought-out override, so we can incorporate items basically to prolong the assets. I mean, we're doing an awful lot of things behind the scene with the maintenance budget to prolong assets before they get worn out, before they come to capital. With good staff, people who work in our buildings. We have the equipment to service them, but we can't get them all fixed, given finances. That's the only problem, is money. Thank you.
Other questions? Well, thank you, gentlemen, for all your hard work.
Thank you for inviting us. We'll be more than glad to come anytime you got money for us.
Roger and Jimmy, you might want to know, Tool is here to talk about the traffic transportation master plan, so you might be interested to stay for that.
It was 180, by the way, for
180, yes, yeah, we've had it on the list. Thank you.
I think that's a good segue into Tool. So
And like infrastructure to get the capital committee excited.
Do you have a presentation?
Nope.
No, okay.
Yep. Thank you, guys. My name's Jeff Rosenblum with Tool Design Group. I'm the Director of Planning for the Northeast, and Alexis Vitaretta is directing this project. Thrilled to be here. We work on a lot of stuff with you guys. For those of you who don't know, we do multimodal transportation planning, landscape architecture, engineering around the country, focused on kind of sustainable urban and active transportation. We do a lot of stuff with you guys, ranging from roadway and traffic signal design, parking, downtown streetscape, parking policy. But today, we are here to talk about sort of taking a step back from a lot of those smaller projects that we've been working on with you, not that they're necessarily that small, to take a look at the greater transportation plan for the town. And the focus is on thinking about vehicles, bicycles, pedestrians, how to make the town a lot safer for all those modes, as well as thinking about the connectivity and increasing access to different places, whether it be kids going from home to school, whether it be people biking to downtown, getting on the commuter rail a different way than driving, and rethinking how people are accessing the places they want to go. So this opportunity to take a step back, I think, is a great initiative of the city. A lot of the town, a lot of places are doing this, a lot of cities and towns around the country, to say, if we want to be strategic about having a more biking and walking friendly town, how do we do that? And I think a lot of times people are feeling like they're poking at the problem, saying, let's put like one piece of infrastructure here, or let's try to do a little traffic calming here. The town wants to take that step back and say, what are all the projects that could be on the table, and how can we think about strategically programming them over time to get the best network as quickly as possible, given the resources that the town has. So we're excited to work with you guys on that. We have a short bit in the packet, and Alexis is going to give a quick overview of that, and then we can just open it up for discussion.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. So the main deliverables from this whole process will be a list of all of the projects that are kind of on the minds of town staff and the public. For example, the Highland Avenue corridor study will go into this. All the similar studies the town's done over the years will be incorporated, and we'll break that out into projects that will develop relative cost and timeline and other details. And then we will create with the town and TTAC a framework for prioritizing those, like Jeff said, over time. And we can do that based on a number of factors, like the projected safety benefits, relative cost, ease of implementation, connections to important destinations like schools and parks. And then we'll also come up with a list of supporting policy and program recommendations to target kind of routine operations or operational practices that can kind of codify this and make these changes towards safer walking and biking more routine, and then also complement the infrastructure change with other kinds of supporting programs. And we'll base that on the master plan and other studies, as well as ideas from the TTAC, the town, and the public. Anything to add?
Great. And as part of this, there's an engagement process that we're helping the town with, working with existing committees, doing outreach to the public to get a sense of what are people feeling around places. We heard about a crosswalk, but there are a lot of other places that people are interested in that we don't always hear about, or places that, for example, the police department might hear about that maybe have gotten recorded in one place but not in another place. Our job is to try to collect all of that, put it all in one place, and then have everybody from the town be able to look at it and say, all right, now how do we put together a strategic plan moving forward, and then how do we think about getting that funded and implemented. Great. So that was we wanted to leave enough time for you guys to whiz us.
Do you have any?
I just wanted to mention that we're planning, we don't have the dates set yet. We want to do a couple kind of listening sessions with the general public to get feedback from folks. So those would be coming up probably, I think of like May timeframe is what we were targeting, kind of after.
Right after
town meeting.
Yeah.
Before special town meeting. So there's like 2 days in there where we have some time.
Yeah, and we'll also be developing an online tool for people to participate on their own time. And we'll have at least 2 pop-up events where we'll be tabling probably at existing programming. I think we discussed maybe Town Day.
Town Day, yeah.
Question?
Go ahead.
Is this specifically about projects, hard infrastructure, or are you also looking at operations? So, for example, a shuttle program, like if we had electric shuttles, where it would make sense to go, like where we would draw, lines where the shuttles would go. Is that something in scope, or is it only for construction projects?
Our focus is certainly the construction projects. I think for something like a town shuttle, we might provide some guidance or ideas about how to scope out another project to figure that out. But that's something that I'm sure we'll be hearing about.
So the concept would be that has come up a number of times. So the idea would be, what would that entail? What would some approximate costs of different ways of implementing it? We wouldn't do like a route analysis or a kind of detailed funding plan, but if the idea is that a shuttle type system, whether it be leveraging existing shuttles that you have for different purposes, like from a hospital or other things, pretty much we just want to get on the table, like, what are the possibilities for the town for the future? And then that can go into the bucket of possibilities, and then we can say what gets prioritized and then what gets looked at further. So I guess we would consider kind of buses kind of a hard infrastructure in the sense of a capital expense, but also operating.
Yeah, I'd be looking at like an order of magnitude at least in cost, right? It doesn't have to be within 50% or anything, but an order of magnitude, and then what the next steps would be, right? Like, so what would be the step to do the, the route planning and the, and stations, charging stations for the buses and whatever.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is to try to get enough information, and Beth, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but enough information to be able to make good strategic decisions. So those rough orders of magnitude, and then just like what would it take to run a shuttle type of thing. So kind of what the next steps would be and how to scope that out, as Alexis was saying. So
great, thank you.
I just have a question or two here. So it looks like in mid-March, you did you have the 2 workshops, one with town staff and one with T-TAC?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so then it looks like the community engagement would be next. I mean, obviously, this is a hot button issue in this town. I'm sure all of us can attest to different comments we've heard. I just want to make sure that, we advertise that to the public and make sure that we have a lot going on in the next couple of weeks with town meeting, 2 town meetings, and just, the spring rush with graduations and stuff. So I just want to make sure that the town's well aware and that we give people ample time to submit comments and feedback, and not feel that we need to rush this just to meet a deadline, because I think it's that important. We want to make sure everyone has time to participate in this. Others?
I guess I have a quick thought on that, and then we can go on. The way that we structured this was to think through how to get good feedback. We work on plans with a lot of different places and really focus on how to design something that is multifaceted to get input at different times. So it's not like there's not just one public hearing, and if you miss it, that's it. This online mapping tool has been really successful in letting people provide feedback on their own time. Also allowing us to have like a computer set up at a pop-up event and let people do it. Having everything set before town meeting starts has been sort of our collective agreement as the best way of getting a lot of input, because then throughout town meeting, when everyone's thinking town process, town improvement, that's when it can be pitched. Postcards can be given out, it can be announced at different things, and the input can be done online. Of course, people can email or call or do the regular things, but being able to look at a map and say, here's where I feel unsafe, or here's where I'd like to see something improved, really helps elicit the feedback from folks. And also, because it's more engaging, gets people to be thinking about, oh, they're making a plan. So it allows 2-way communication so that we can say, this is the goal of the plan for the town, and this is what the town is trying to accomplish. These are the town goals, and let people give feedback that way. So we're hoping that this whole thing will be pretty robust. And then in terms of the plan itself, towns that feel like they're going to come up with a transportation plan and it's going to be static and they're not going to do it again for 10 years, this is really more setting up a process and a database and a kind of structure for thinking about all the different transportation aspects and getting network ideas out there to start and then have it be iterated. So we don't want people in the public to feel like this is it, and if they don't get their input in now, it's over. So.
Can I ask?
Sure.
We all notice spots in our neighborhood that we think, as we were discussing Highland Avenue, and that we think could be safer or could be improved. Is there a part of the process that will look at these, different things and maybe the areas that bubble up and determine what are priorities? Because in fact, there is a safety issue there, or there is kind of an ongoing thing that's happening.
So the idea for this process is for us as transportation professionals to lay out best practices, to lay out what we think are the kind of ground truthed safety issues at certain locations. But the prioritization process is really the towns. And so our goal is more like a facilitator to sort of get the priorities from T-TAC, from the input from the town, and say, if you're going to take all of these things and think about a mechanism to prioritize them, let us help you do the prioritization, but a lot of it's gonna come from the town in terms of saying, okay, this is how we wanna spend the investments.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you both for coming in tonight. It's been very helpful.
Thank you.
Look forward to getting this project up and running.
Appreciate it, thanks.
Next up, we have a update on the Eversource 345 kV line. Evening, gentlemen, if you could introduce yourself, please.
I'm Mike Hager, the Eversource project manager for the project, and with me is Trevor McCourt from McCourt Construction, who's our contractor for this project.
Thank you. We're just turning on our giant TV. Thank you both for coming tonight
Okay.
and
Do you
updating
want
us.
to use this to go through your slides? Or what do you want to do?
If you want, I could do that.
I think it's just this one here, right?
Yes.
So we're here to give you an update on where we stand on the 345 kV project and answer any questions you have. So as a general reminder, our project is an underground transmission line project along Cross Street and Washington Street. It starts at the Woburn-Winchester line on Cross Street, continues down Cross Street to Washington Street, and then heads up Washington Street to the Woburn City line up there as well. There's 6 manholes along the line. 2 of them are on Washington Street. Both of those manholes in Washington Street are in place right now, as well as duct bank from the Woburn line there down to about the Hospital Cancer Center there by Sunset Road. The rest of the project is just getting underway. We spent all winter long working with town staff on alignment and constructability related issues. We believe we've reached agreement on all those issues and are getting ready or actively underway in construction for this season. So our plan for this year, we have a river crossing up the Averjone River right around Sunset Road at Washington Street. We're just setting up that work zone right now. I think you'll see in the next day or two the barriers that go up to kind of create the traffic pattern around that work zone. And that's us tunneling underneath the river to put the duct bank in underneath the river there. That work is ongoing. We hope to have complete this summer. We're also working on the remainder of the duct bank along Washington Street. Once those barriers are set up, we expect to be able to start later this week, early next week, with another crew right at Sunset Road coming out of the manhole we installed last year and working our way down to the Cross Street area. And that work will continue through August, late summer there. Actually through July, I'm reading the wrong line. And then we also have some work to do on Cross Street, and we've worked out our plans so far for the area between Forest Street and Washington Street. We do have a manhole that we have to install there. And then our duct bank coming out of that to both areas. So we'll be working on that. Our plan was to start that in May. We did agree to move 16 water connections from your old water main to your new water main to kind of create a better path for us on Washington Street. May was our target start date due to availability of parts to do those water connection work. I understand we have materials and can begin that sometime this week or next week, a little sooner than planned. So we're trying to get a jump on that and be able to get that work complete as soon as we can. So again, that work should be done by the summer. The other part we're looking at is we do have to do another trenchless crossing underneath the Aberjona River, right there in the Forest Street area, and underneath the MBTA bridge. So we were planning, or we're still working out the details of where those pits are gonna be and how that work zone sets up. Now we've come to agreement on the other work areas. Our attention with town staff will turn to that. But we understand that traffic-wise, July and August is a good time frame with school being out of session and reduced traffic in that area. So we're targeting a June start. That is a significant effort and will take us through probably October to complete, assuming we don't run into any issues. And so we're trying to work out the final details in that so we can get moving with that plan. And then we've also talked about for this year, when you get to the other side of the bridge, the Woburn side of the MBTA bridge, we do have a manhole up around the Lowell Street intersection that needs to go in and completing the duct bank out to that point, which will happen in the fall. So that's our plan for this year.
So just before we get off the slide, could you talk a little bit more about the trenchless crossing on Cross Street in terms of the road shutdown, how long you expect the road to be closed, and what those impacts will be?
So that's our plan for this year. And again, if we can make some good progress, get ahead of things, there's still a little bit of work left to do. We still need to complete the duct bank and 2 manholes on Cross Street between Lowell and the Woburn line. So that's still work. We have to just verify the alignment with town staff and work that into our plan. To the extent that we make some good progress or we're able to open up some other work zones without impacting something else, we have to work this into the plan. Internally, I keep getting asked to complete this project by the end of the year. That's a lot of work to do in Winchester between now and the end of this calendar year. But certainly, we want to wrap this thing up by about March or April of next year. We'll have to figure out how to make that work with the work that we have left to do. After all that duct bank work is done, we still have to come back and pull the cable and do the splicing. Along that route, that's probably early next year, but that doesn't require excavation. That just requires us to set up some pulling machines at each manhole during the day, pull the cable or go back in and have someone in the manholes and doing the splicing. So that's work that we may seek permission to do over the winter time, depending on the schedule, but it doesn't require any excavation, and it's, set up a smaller work zone around those manhole openings during the day and then leave the roadway open after that. So as Beth was indicating, this is a small little map here, but this spot right down here is that MBTA railroad crossing area on Cross Street and Forest Street. That's where we need to do that trenchless crossing. So for the most part, we would start on the Woburn side of the MBTA bridge and have to put a pit in the roadway there so that we can get 25 feet deep, tunnel underneath the bridge, continue to tunnel underneath the river and come out on the other side around Forest Street. Those pits are fairly large. They're 25 feet deep. They're difficult to plate at the end of the day. And so we would tend to need some fixed work zones. So the traffic management plan that was established for this project way back when did anticipate that we would have that section of Cross Street closed down. And the detour using the main roads does take everybody back up to Montville Ave, down Green Street and down Holton Street to get around that. We realize that's a big impact. I do have an outreach team.
That's an understatement.
That's like a 20-minute detour project that will, there isn't really anything to cut through in that area. And we're gonna need to work out outreach and. What's that?
I don't know why you wouldn't, I think we talked this before, but use Swanton to Loring Ave.
There may be some other alternatives that, as we review this with town staff, we may come up with. This is the one that was presented there. So if there's a shorter, more acceptable detour route to the town, we'd be happy to implement that route as well. And again, I hope we can turn discussions with town staff to this area now that we've seemed to have wrapped up the other sections for the year and kind of work out the details here.
So could we, I think we all have a lot of questions. So can we just go back one slide for a second? I just want to understand the timeline and the road closures. Go back one more, sorry. All right, so let's start with the top. Aberjona River Crossing, Washington Street, April to July. My understanding, this will be one lane closure on average on the,
No, we will set up a fixed work zone with some Jersey barriers, and that will allow for 2 lanes of traffic at all times of the day.
all right.
I would expect that probably during the day, during construction, there'd be times when they'll have it down to 1 lane, just because of
That's fair, Beth, yeah.
the proximity of equipment working next to.
We'd be able to
traffic.
open it up at the end of each workday, though, to make sure that there's 2 lanes.
Okay. And your company's doing the work, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you're a Winchester resident?
My brother is.
Brother?
My brother
Okay.
lives on Sunset.
Okay. Is he in the company?
He is, he's the president of the company.
Okay. All right, so he can relate a little bit to the pain that we're all
Yes,
having heart
yep.
palpitations here.
No, we understand.
At the
I mean,
table.
We do a lot of roadway work across the state in different cities and municipalities, and we understand it's not ideal to have a contractor digging across your town.
Yeah.
That's not, I know no one necessarily wants it, even though it's an unnecessary evil, or a necessary evil, I guess I should say.
Yeah, we just have a lot of fronts with Eversource in this town right now. So Washington Street, Duck Bank, April, July, what do we expect for closures and detours in this area? Anything?
So on the duck banks on Washington Street, we'll be able to, it'll go to a single lane when we're working, and then we'll be able to plate the road and open it up as we approach Cross Street. So we'll be working from essentially that Aberjona River crossing heading towards Cross Street, and there will be from 7 to 3:30 alternating traffic with details. And then at the end of the day, we'll put road plates down and open up both lanes.
Okay.
For
when you're
every
doing the-
day, oh, sorry.
Sorry, when you're doing the vacuum excavation through the Forest Washington intersection, you think you'll be able to maintain
I
traffic through
think
that
we
area?
will be able to, yeah.
So Washington Street will be down to 1 lane every day from April to July?
Well, during the workday. It'll be
They're
alternating
not allowed to
traffic.
start work before 8:30 in the morning.
Okay. And then Cross Street, Forest to Washington, this is this the, Forest to Washington?
so,
This is not the bridge closure?
no,
This is
this is-
No,
So-
this is before you get to it.
Okay.
So if you
And
picture
so what do we,
our
what
path-
do we picture for closures and detours in this area?
So again, that's a one-sided roadway, that would be 1 lane of alternating traffic while we're doing the work. I will point out that part of our discussion would be, if we could put 2 crews in there working out of that manhole in both directions, we can get through there a little quicker. That may necessitate kind of shutting down that section during the workday. Again, that'll is this discussion we'll have with town staff to find out what's the best overall plan to meet that. But
Well, there's-
at best, at the
So-
worst, it'll be a single lane of traffic.
My first question is on the manhole. Are you gonna need to shut the road down, or are you able to maintain 1 lane of traffic during the construction of the
We'll
manhole?
have to do a detour for the manhole. The manholes are rather large. They're
Okay, so
30
that's
feet
like
by 8 feet.
4 weeks?
Oh, no, just when we.
Just the week you
when we-
set it?
When we set it, exactly.
So manhole, generally, you start on a Monday, by Friday, everything's excavated, and you come back and set the manhole on Monday and restore by, Tuesday or Wednesday.
So the manhole is between Marion and Washington, correct?
Yes.
So traffic could be.
Marion's a short little street, and yes, yep.
And what would be access to businesses during this time period in that area?
So that's all part of our outreach effort, and to make sure that we understand what their requirements are and deliveries. So we'll work out, what our work times are, how we're working. If we're directly in front of driveways, we'll make sure that there's ways for people to get in and out of those businesses while we're working there. And that's all worked out by our outreach team in advance and kind of coordinated with Trevor and his team as we get there.
Did you have a question?
I have so many questions. But just to start with that, this is my neighborhood. So knowing there is a preschool sort of right there where that manhole will be. So for access to that preschool, if somebody is coming from Winchester Center and they can't go down Cross Street, are they gonna hit one-way traffic at that time? between Cross and Forest on Washington, and then need to head down Forest. So just thinking for those businesses that we know are getting traffic, 8:30, 12:30, 5:30, there's a soccer park down at the other end. Just needs to be considerate of that, because the neighborhood, that pocket neighborhood in there is gonna get the brunt of any traffic coming around. And that seems like that will be really delayed from additional closures on Washington Street.
Understood. And our outreach team has already spoken with the preschool in there, and again, we'll speak with every business as we're approaching that, including the gingerbread construction house for work in that intersection and near them, to understand, times a day, how their business is impacted, which day, for the preschool, are there certain pickup and drop-off times that are critical for traffic versus others, and we kind of coordinate with the construction team to minimize those impacts and be able to provide access as need be. Same thing, we're digging a trench and it's clearly gonna go past driveways in there. We kind of work with homeowners, what time do you leave in the day, what time do you get out? If you leave in the middle of the day, we're able to plate that up so that people can get in and out with a few minutes' notice in there and kind of get ahead of those things.
And short of the larger detour, which we saw a graphic of on the everyday work for the Duck Bank, I mean, it's not necessarily one-way traffic as much as it's alternating traffic. So there'll be a police detail, and they'll wave across 20 cars and then stop and so you will still have access while we're working there. It's not a complete detour,
Yeah, it's just many of the people who are coming to those businesses are not neighbors would walk, so they're gonna need to plan ahead for additional.
And that's part of the outreach, knowing that that's what's there to provide any communications, to the businesses to give to their parents who are dropping off in the case of the daycare center, so that word gets out, so that people know what's coming, as opposed to they show up one day and have to figure out what's going on.
For the section that we're talking about, the
Sure.
cross street from Forest to Washington, you said there's gonna be a week and a half to 2 weeks when the whole street will have to be closed while putting the manhole, right? Did I misunderstand that?
So
Starting on a Monday?
4 to 6 weeks total.
Right, but
on Washington, it was that, it should go faster on a typical.
You said start excavation on a Monday,
I started on
finish the excavation on Friday, and then come back next week, set it on a Monday, and close it up on Wednesday. That's a week and a half. Right?
Yeah, I would say 2 weeks is a safe
So
estimate.
2 weeks if it rains or whatever, right? Can that happen while there's no school? Like instead of May, that says May through August, can it happen in July or August? Those 2 weeks? Or,
So that delays our ability to get going on Cross Street, because you want to set the manhole and kind of work out of there.
so that has to happen in May or June?
That's preferred, so, yes. And during that work time, so again, I think we have a restriction on time so that the morning traffic can go through, and the closure just during the day, we'll be able to, for those manhole things plated at night. so
We should be able to
people
plate it at night. It's really when you're setting the manhole and you need to bring a crane out, and the crane has to set up, that you need the full detour. It's when you're setting the large structure, so the outriggers of the crane are so wide that that just.
Yeah, I'm not questioning the need for it, I'm
Yeah,
just trying
no.
to figure out if we can minimize the
I
impact.
think we can, and I think we've had a really, or at least I feel over the winter, we had a really good rapport with Jay and Brian and Beth and their department, and I think certainly, we're gonna have to present them the entire plan in advance, and we'll vet it with you, together and make sure that, the impact we're having is as minimal as possible.
So let's talk about the main event. So the MBTA Bridge, Aberjona River, June, October, you expect to close that area across street?
For probably 4 months of that window, that detour will need to be in place.
So how do people get to that soccer field?
And that's part of what we need to work out in establishing where that exit pit goes, to make sure that access to that, at least from that side of the bridge to the soccer field, is maintained.
I mean, I
don't
won't
know
mince words. This is a nightmare for our town. I mean, I get it. I mean, we have to do it, but this is gonna be a huge burden in that area of town for the residents and the people that access that road and go down there. So whatever you guys can do to minimize this timeline and stick to it would be very important. Because this is a very well-traveled area of town. There's many children's programs that operate in that area. We have neighbors that live in that area. You know, when I see this timeline, you know, I'm hoping you can stick to it. And I hope you come here regularly to update us if there's any changes to that timeline. Because, like I said, this is a well-traveled area. I understand this project needs to go forward, but, you know, this is asking a lot of our residents in this area.
We understand, yes.
Mike?
Yeah, thank you very much for coming in with the update here. We've known this is coming for a while, right? And, you know, it's the reality is setting in and the impact of the community that's been under a lot of construction. I think for most residents that are engaging in a communication like this, it's not helpful. You know, for us, you can see we're even trying to fumble through it, and we've been kind of having high visibility. Is there a way that we can have a website that is specific with updates, with pictures of the area, with pictures of what, you know, things, you know, visuals, what's going on? Because as we know, we've been through a lot of construction, we continue to be under a lot of construction, but things change, things happen, things move around. And, you know, if I'm on Marion Street and I'm trying to get to work, or I'm trying to get to the soccer facility, and I'm not sure whether there's going to be, you know, a closure, or if it's, you know, if it, you know, 100 people are driving 3 miles per hour over a, you know, a grate, or a, you know, a flat piece of metal that covers up a manhole. You know, there's people have little time when they're getting kids from school into sports and to support those businesses. So that's the only thing that, you know, I would recommend. I think there's the physical limitations of the construction that we know are there, but I think that it's going to add to the anxiety if people are just looking at words on a slide like this on a page that are static without a real sense of what that's going to be. So hopefully we can work with town staff, but also, you know, I think there's some simple, you know, corrections to the detours there that are necessary to make. But that, yeah.
Yes,
So.
so I do have Miles Lang Kennedy from our community outreach team with us who can give some more details, but at a
Great.
high level, we do have a project website
Yep.
where we advertise the link to that and encourage residents to go there and check up for updates. We do update it on a weekly basis in construction. Here's the 3-week look ahead, and put all the up-to-date information, including the maps and the detours that are in place for people to see there. Some communities do add that link to that on one of their community town pages. We're happy to add that link if it's not
We have that
already
on
set
the
up.
town page.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we do have the regular outreach that goes to people who live along the roadway, but we also have to make sure we get the message to the broader community as to what's going on. So we do have those plans in
I
place.
think it's gonna
and-
be really important for you to work with the businesses and the sports programs and the schools and the, you know,
In the vet.
all those clubs, the vet, to have them help push out the messages about what the road impacts will be. I mean, they all have email lists and mailing lists to work with.
The outreach team is with us all week long, coordinating with Trevor and the rest of the project team, and we find that these projects go well when people that are impacted by it know what's coming in advance. They can prepare for it, and that includes, you know, dealing with the butters and businesses along the way, getting we keep asking Trevor and his team, where do you think he's gonna be coming up? More importantly, not where are you going to be this week, but 3 weeks from now, so they can be knocking on those doors and understanding what they have to do to address those impacts, and then bring that back in advance so that we can work that into our construction plan. So we agree with you, that outreach is critical to the success of the project, and we rather just deal with execution issues versus the perceptions from the public along the way.
Thea?
Thank you.
So what, this is maybe a question. The Cross Street Bridge is closed. The path is also gonna be closed, so no one's gonna be able to walk through there. Is that correct?
There'll be a pedestrian whether you can cross where the crosswalk is now, I'm not sure, but you might be able to.
But you won't be able to walk under the MBTA bridge. There is a path on the Davidson Park side.
So, we're still laying out what's gonna need to be in that roadway, for equipment and, while we're doing that work. But certainly the detour is for vehicle traffic in the work zone. Our ability to set up safe pedestrian zones has more flexibility in it. So I know we were factoring in pedestrian crossings from the soccer field side to the park side. And we'll take back making sure that, getting the walkway underneath the bridge has a pedestrian access as well.
I think that would help with traffic coming to the soccer field from the other side. If Cross Street Bridge is closed, there could be some coordination for walking through from the other side versus folks who would be on Cross Street walking down needing to go all the way around. The other point I want to make is you're talking about abutters and I assume you're talking Washington and Cross, but that neighborhood, including Marion, Clematis, Lower Forest, Garfield, and Brookside, are all going to have very similar impacts to getting in and out of the neighborhood and traffic going there, and cluing in the people who live in the neighborhood that those things are happening is going to be really important, because they will feel surprised if they're not getting similar communications to what's happening on Cross in Washington.
Understood.
Other comments, anyone?
I had a question on the splicing. I think it was on the next slide. Is that going to require I forget what it was called on the other line, the implosive splicing where you have to set off? No, you have to set off explosives to splice the.
That's a different type of cable. I don't believe we use that here, but I haven't focused on the mechanics of what goes on in the splicing.
I guess my question is it
I think
going to
it's more
require
a mechanical
explosions?
splice.
It's mechanical splicing. It's not
Yeah, and
that you put a ring around it and the explosives go off and generate enough heat and pressure to splice it together.
I don't mean to give you a blank stare, but we don't do
Okay,
the
that's what
splicing,
that's what they did on
Yeah,
that's what Eversource did on the what is it, the 110? 115.
The 115, yeah, I
line,
think the
so-
XLPE, they just splice the cable together, and they're down there for an extended period splicing, but I'll defer to you, Mike.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a separate vendor, and I haven't focused on that aspect of it, because I'm still trying to get some duct bank installed along the way and close up some loose ends, but I'll be happy to follow up.
Yeah, and
with
if
you
there's
on
going to be, also if that's gonna be needed 24/7, that's my other question. So if there's gonna be significant noise at night, that's my concern. Wherever technology you use, is gonna be significant noise at night.
So that I do know the answer to. I do hear the other project manager talking about these 24-hour-a-day operations on that one. On this one, we're not needing to do that. It'll just be crews coming in, doing whatever they can during that day and coming back several days in a row until they complete the splice in there. And again, that's just bringing a truck to the manhole, setting up a little detour around where they have to open up the manhole cover and get in. And then at the end of the workday, the roadways will be opened up.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Well, thank you, gentlemen, for coming.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll be talking to you. Okay. Right, next on the agenda is we have a letter that we received concerning a request for a lip endorsement for 2 Abbey Road, Winchester, Mass. So this is a letter that we received from Attorney Paul Haverty back on May 16th, 2022. Essentially, this is on the agenda tonight to decide, if there's any steps we need to take with this letter. The letter in part reads that the applicant would like to have a conversation with the select board to determine if it has interest in pursuing mutually beneficial comprehensive permit development on this property. The applicant is interested in discussing a Chapter 40B development encompassing all of the lots in the subdivision. Alternatively, the applicant would also be interested in discussing a smaller development in which it constructs a duplex unit on the parcel owned by the town in conjunction with lots 1, 2, and 3. The letter goes on to state that the applicant has not prepared any conceptual plans for either of these proposed development scenarios at this point because it is trying to gauge the interest of the town in pursuing such a development before it goes to the expense of developing site plans and architectural plans. So the only question before this board tonight would be whether to invite the proponents of this correspondence into the select board and have a discussion with them and hear what their ideas would be. So with that, I would open it up to discussion amongst this board. Then I'll jump at once.
It's deja vu all over again for me. This is how we started, right? There was a comprehensive permit application, and there was a negotiation that, so that they would get the subdivision that they have now, and now going back. So from my standpoint is, they need to live up to the agreement that was signed after we spent a lot of time and money negotiating that agreement. So I don't know why we would go back on that.
Okay. Other thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it doesn't hurt for us to kind of kick the tires and have a conversation here. I think that that's all we would do. So I don't get a real sense of, how a lip would work in this location, but to the degree that it's possible and there's an opportunity, I mean, affordable housing is one of our number one priorities right now. So, to the degree that we can, move something forward that, works for the neighborhood and works for our affordable housing objectives and our housing production plan, makes sense. I'm not sure why, I don't have, high visibility of this project, why it's been taking so long. But if the property owners want to have a conversation with us, I think we've always been open. We are out of safe harbor at this point. So, I think we need to have realistic conversations with anyone that wants to discuss a potential 40B project there. So, and I haven't looked at the agreement that we had made, a few years back. But, I guess I would have to review it in order to get up to speed, but it seems worthwhile to bring them in to have a conversation.
Others? So, go ahead.
Sorry for the delay. There seems to be a difference between lots 1, 2, 3. How many lots are in this
It's a
subdivision?
5-lot subdivision. Lots 1, 2, and 3 are under common ownership, and 4 and 5 are owned by 2 different parties.
So, this was before my time on the board, this agreement was reached. From what I can gather, it doesn't seem like anyone's really happy with what's transpiring at Abbey Road. We've got a lot of emails from residents. I was a little perplexed at some of the comments, to be quite honest. I did a little research. And, it seemed like neighbors were in favor of the house that was being built on Lot 4, but seemed to be opposed to what the plan was for 1 and 2 at least. And just digging around with the plans that have been submitted to the ZBA, it looks like that they're essentially the same size, same height. So I'm a little perplexed at what's going on in the neighborhood. But it doesn't seem like anyone's happy. It doesn't seem like this is making traction. I think they're at a stalemate. So, I don't know what will bring everyone to some type of consensus, but certainly, having a discussion about some alternative might work for all parties. I have no idea. I don't know what's being proposed. We have a one-page letter, essentially. So certainly, some type of discussion. See what, as Mike says, see what they have to say. Because what's happening there right now doesn't seem to be working for anyone. I think there's been appeals, there's litigation, there's potentially appeal of the ZBA decision that's going to involve town resources to possibly defend. This agreement was reached, I think, in 2019, it looks like. And we're, as Mario points out, we've kind of come full circle, it sounds like, so, I don't know what gives over there. So if a conversation, might lead to some resolution, then I'd be for that, so I see no harm in having people come in and to talk about this.
I guess what I don't understand is we're out of safe harbor. I'm not sure why, if they want to build a 40B, they could have just gone and applied for a comprehensive permit.
Because they would need an amendment to the development agreement, I think. There's a restriction in the development agreement.
And we did retain 2 lots at the, north of Abbey Road, right, or at least one lot where we
One lot,
could,
yeah.
one lot where we could, put a duplex. So, I mean, I think that it would be in some combination of that if, we haven't built anything there yet, so if there's a way that, that could be facilitated, that makes sense. I mean, we, essentially, pushed off an affordable housing, project there, 40B1, which had, quite a bit more units, and to see what we've got now, and it's not okay. So if there are other options, I think it's, we owe it to residents to pursue whatever is being proposed.
So I guess the subject of the letter is request for LIP endorsement. So there's absolutely no information here that I can say that I would endorse a LIP there, or a friendly 40B. If they want to submit more information, I think they can submit more information on what their plans are, what they would offer the town in exchange for going back on the development agreement, but maybe it's because I was part of when I joined the board, we were already in the middle of what was going on there, but we had a lot of conversations about that property. We had a lot of conversations that went one way and then went backwards and went nowhere. I want to see anything on paper.
And I think that's the discussion
Before.
tonight, is
So,
whether we
yeah, so
bring
my-
them in to
No,
talk about it.
I don't think we bring them in. I think we have them submit whatever they want on paper. I don't think there's a reason to sit around the table when there's no data here of what they propose. I'd like to see their proposal.
And I think what they're saying is, we'd like to present the proposal, from what I can see. I mean,
It seems like
that's-
they don't even have anything, drawn. I don't think that until we say we're willing to have a conversation, I don't think that they've got anything. I mean, that's what it seems like from their letter, and their letter is brief and, maybe not, clear from the subject matter what their objective is, but just from the content of it, it seems like this is as preliminary as you can get.
You've been on the board for 7 years, right, Mariano?
5.
5? Not 7?
7
7?
there.
Yep.
So, I mean, this must have started when you first got on the board.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember a time when this wasn't happening, so, I mean, and Mariano's right, I mean, this was really threading the needle. It took a lot, for us to convince town meeting of this, operation, because with the land swap and, the different infrastructure work that, was being required, so, something needs to happen there. I'm not in that area, much frankly, so I don't really know where construction is or where permitting is. I know that the ZBA has a decision that's, coming out at some point. I don't know what that looks like, but we'll, I think we've always been open to conversation, and that conversation could welcome the neighborhood and other people as well, so.
I'm concerned that the request is while waiting for an appeal from the ZBA, which seems like potentially a way to get around what an outcome might be. So I don't know if it is feasible to wait on that for there to be a determination before having a conversation about it.
So lot 1 is currently in court. Lot 2, I believe, is in court as well. Lot 3, I don't believe there's been any proposals submitted to the ZBA. And there's a new proposal for lot 4, which is not part of this letter, but just so you're aware.
Are those in land court or are those in Superior Court? Okay.
I think Superior Court, but I could be wrong.
So is it that the developer is challenging the ZBA's decision, or is it an abutter?
So lot 2, the building department issued a permit that was appealed to the ZBA. The ZBA overturned it, and I believe that has been appealed. The ZBA's decision has been appealed, that's my understanding. Lot 1, I don't remember all the history of it, but there's basically a foundation in the ground, and then there was an appeal that happened, and that went into court as well, so.
So maybe can we get a summary from town council on where those things are at? And I agree with Anthea, I don't think we should be being used as an end around to the ZBA. I think we should wait to see what happens. Well, let's get town council to give us a summary of what's going on, but, and see if it makes sense to wait until those things are resolved.
I guess I'm a little confused. Wait till they're resolved, meaning the court cases?
If it makes sense.
Oh.
When we get an update from council, if they say, well, this is in land court and it might take 2 years, right, then it might not make sense to wait. But if they say, oh, this is something that will be coming out in the next 2 or 3 months, a decision, then we could wait for that.
Well, I can tell you, I think the ZBA decision just came down on Lot 2 last week, so I don't even know if that's been appealed yet.
Oh, sorry, maybe I was referencing,
So
I
I
was
think,
confusing
yeah.
lot
so-
2 and 2 Abbey Road, so yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just from a trial attorney standpoint, if it's in Superior Court, I mean, that's 2 to 3 years away from any type of resolution. And in a case like this, it's not really a trial, it's kind of, they set like a briefing schedule. You have a period to conduct discovery, which is typically 8 to 9 months, and then you have, they prepare the record's submitted, and then the judge, you basically submit like summary judgment motions, and have hearings that way. So, I mean, you're probably talking 18 months at the earliest, would be my guess, before you have some type of evidentiary hearing on this. But that's just based on my trial work.
So has the ZBA denied all the permits?
Yeah, they denied 2. I mean, what is it 2, 4?
So,
So we don't have to have the
So-
conversation now, I'd like a
Yeah.
summary from town council on where we are on all of that.
with lot 2, sorry, I was confusing lot 2 and 2 Abbey Road. Lot 2, there was a building permit issued, that was appealed, it went to ZBA, and the ZBA overturned, and they just, as you said, issued the permit last week, or the decision within the past week.
So, yeah, I mean, my concern is that the town's gonna start having to be involved, and like other ZBA appeals that we've had to be involved in, it's cost the town hundreds of thousands of dollars. In addition, the lack of development up there has also, I think there's supposed to be 5 houses there in the development. We haven't seen one built yet, so, I mean, we're losing tax revenue that way. There were costs initially with this, so, this has just been going on, so I think we need to expedite the process here. So I would disagree with you, Mariano. I don't think we wait. I think, we either, and I'm not saying it's the next meeting, but at some point, when things settle down here, we invite these people in and see what they have to say. That would be my position.
Can we have a write-up from town council on what the status is before we do that? I have no idea what's going on with those lots, so I'd like to have that.
Yeah, we can have town,
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
town
All right.
council's done that.
I didn't know
before.
if you disagreed with
No,
that.
I mean, town
part.
councils, I think, we've gotten updates I think, if I remember, there's at least one update that we've gotten from town council, I think on the first appeal, so.
I think we can move on parallel tracks. I
Yeah,
don't think we
I
need to
don't
stop something to, town council certainly needs to get us an update, because I don't know, I don't attend these ZBA hearings, so I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. Certainly, I mean, town council will have to weigh in on this. I mean, Art Krieger's been involved in this, I think, the entire time.
And I've heard from neighbors on both sides of this issue, certainly a lot of people saying that they don't want any sort of, town involvement with the 40B, and some people that are welcoming it because they're not happy where things are as well. So I think if we have a discussion, it can be a community-wide discussion, and certainly our meetings will be public on it, but, it's worthwhile to respond.
So do we need to actually vote on having these people come in, or just state that we'll get a letter from town, a memo from town council and invite these people in at the same time? Or do we need to formally vote on that?
You can invite them.
Yeah.
If you want, yeah. Put them,
It's
put
just
it on the
consensus of
agenda.
the board, I think is fine, it
Okay.
seems like.
All right.
But yeah, but we
Okay,
we
John?
do need information on it, yeah.
All right, so let's do that. Let's get a memo from town council and let's, sometime after town meeting, we'll put an agenda item to invite them in, see what they have to say.
If town council could also like summarize the relevant points of the development agreement, right? So for members that haven't
Yeah,
been, and I honestly haven't looked at it in a while either, so that's helpful. It's pretty detailed.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot to cross documents, at
Yep.
least from one letter we got today from one of the neighbors, cited several documents on file with the registry. So certainly, yeah, that would be helpful. And to Mariano's point,
And
why can't they just go file if they wanted to?
Yeah, and maybe maybe you understand it better. I'm not a lawyer, right? So that's why I'm looking for town council to write it out in language that I can understand.
I do believe the development agreement has a restriction on a 40B because that was why there was the land swap done to start with.
And would that require town meeting to reverse that, right? I mean, I don't know, like, that's what we need to know that, right?
If there was gonna be a hostile 40B, but if it was a friendly 40B, then.
Well, no, I mean, if
Yep.
there's a friendly 40B, I don't know, right? Would the select board be able to go against the development agreement without going to town meeting? That's, that would be something for town council to also let us know.
Yeah,
So-
I'll pull the development agreement and circulate it to the board, along with the memo from town council.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they are appealed, if the denial of the building permit's appealed and we end up in litigation, we as the executive branch of the government can, settle the dispute, if we so choose, so. Is that what you're asking? I mean, so I don't think we need to go to town meeting for that authority. To avoid litigation, that's vested in our power to resolve it that way.
I don't know.
And then again, we received, at least 10 to 15 emails, I think, today from neighbors and they were all the same about they want reasonable developments, they're supporting Lot 4 because it's reasonable. And then they want reasonable developments of lots 1, 2, and 3. So just comparing the different projects, total square footage, they're all, the Lot 4 development's 4,978 square feet. Lots 2 is right around that, and Lot 1 is less than that. And the height, Lot 4 height is 37 feet, 6 inches. Lot 2 is 30 feet, 2 inches, and Lot 1 is 38 and 3 inches. And so I guess I'm a little perplexed by the responses we received from the neighbors about why Lot 4 is okay and Lot 1 and 2 are not. And looking at the setbacks, it appears Lot 4, the development there that's being proposed is closer to the neighbors, especially on Dana Road, than the other 2 projects. So I just don't understand. I'm a little perplexed by that response that we received, so.
Rich, if we could also get town council to weigh in on it, there was reference by several of the emails I received today, about trees being removed, that were not allowed as well. I mean, that just seems like something that, we need to resolve right out of the gate, if that was not part of the, original authority that the developer had. So, if we need to plant trees, let's get that moving.
All right, so I guess stay tuned. There'll be more on that as we move along. Okay, next up is the Downtown Initiative Action Plan. So Beth, I don't know if you want to pull this up.
Sure.
Thank you. So this is, and forgive me, I don't know the name of the committee. I think it's the Downtown Initiative, what is the committee called? Downtown?
I don't know the committee name, just the Downtown Initiative Action Plan
Committee-
Working Group, or, yeah, something like that.
So there's a working group that Mike and I have been a part of for about a year now. Even before I was on the select board, I was on it for the Chamber of Commerce. And Tool Engineering had been engaged to do some, to seek input, do a walk around, and come up with a plan, for better, for more safe pedestrian, bike, and car travel through the Center Business District. So this is something they came up with in late February, and I thought it would be appropriate to share it with the whole board and just get some initial feedback and thoughts, before we get too far down the line. I'll say this is very conceptual, and, there's been no consideration for costs, so, this is something that could be, a significant cost to the town, and something that, we would have to do in stages or seek federal funding or state funding to do. So I'll walk through some of this.
Sure.
So you can see, as best I can remember, but, so the first thing we're looking at is improvements to the Quill Rotary. One concern is obviously making sure that as best we can get traffic directed, around the Rotary the right direction, and also improve lighting, narrow the crosswalk so it's safer for pedestrian crossing. So you'll see to the right there, you can see the design of how they've made some bump outs, shortened crosswalks. I believe there's some raised crosswalks.
Not on this slide, but we'll get there.
Oh, we'll get there.
There's a whole race street.
So
And
the black line is the existing curb line, just for reference. I know it's kind of light here, but just to see where it's being bumped out.
And you can see how, down, especially by Mount Vernon Street, right, where Beth's cursor is, that it's kind of steering traffic, in that one direction with the bump out. So hopefully that prevents people, I think that one's always the problematic side, that people go around the wrong way. This would improve the lighting. I think the plantings would stay the same in the center, but just, make it more inviting, more pedestrian friendly, easier to cross, and maintaining the parking in that area. I don't think we lose any parking spaces in that area. Further down, Main Street. So this is something that I was particularly excited about.
Can you scroll back?
Yep.
The original slider, because here's my pet peeve downtown. We used to have a police, where am I? Where's the Carlson workout place? Carlson Real Estate, I'm dating myself. People whiz around the corner here and almost always get picked off. So what's the plan there, Mr. Mucci?
I think narrow the street so people hit the brakes.
Yeah, so this is the existing curb line. You see that line, that black line there?
I'll see fat and also they have no choice
So
but to slow down.
really shortening that crossing distance there.
So I think, Mariano's been on the board longer than I have, but I've heard the Tools pitch a couple of times. So by narrowing the street, it optically makes people want to slow down.
Yeah.
And so I think the idea there is to narrow it so people want to slow down.
Yeah, I think the issue there still on this design is the radius of the curve is too long. So it makes people be able to take the corner faster.
Right.
Right? I'd like to see it more squared so that you have to turn. You can't just go, right? You have to stop and turn right over there. And I know there was a 2012, I think, there was a conceptual design that got rid of the rotary. It made it made the rotary in the middle rectangular and made it 4 streets going around, and that forced a turn at every corner. So I think there's options here, right? This is conceptual, but I think there's room for improvement.
Yeah, the two big things, setting aside the pedestrian safety, is just, this is a kind of a truck route because it is Route 38. So that was one of the things when we looked at it previously with the MBTA, was making sure we could allow large enough radius for truck traffic through there. And then also, right now, a lot of these kind of areas under the underpasses are used as kind of loading zones for people, which is not ideal, but there's also no other place to do it.
Right.
So that kind of, as you said, this is still very conceptual, but that's kind of the things that need to be thought about as part of the process.
And as long as from Church, as long as that's a raised crosswalk and we get rid of the light there, because pedestrians should always have the right of way. We shouldn't have a light there, right?
I thought that was.
Why just have one location, right?
Yeah.
That's some odd.
Yeah.
If they propose or not.
All right.
Sorry.
We got some other stuff to cover, so I want to get through, these are all great questions, but again,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
conceptually. So Main Street, you know, the goal here is to widen the sidewalks for allowing for, outdoor dining rather than in a parking spot, and better use of the sidewalks, narrowing the street to slow vehicle traffic, and then making it more pedestrian friendly. So what we have here is the sidewalks have been increased from, I think it's 11 feet. If you go to the next one, Beth, I think it has the actual, keep going down. So we've gone from 9.5 feet sidewalks, 9 feet parking spaces, and 16.5 feet travel lanes on each side. And we've kind of reversed it. We've now got 16 feet sidewalks, 8-foot parking spots, and 11-foot travel lanes on both sides. So by doing this, we're able to maintain our parking plan on Main Street, but, increase the walkability of the center, and, accomplish that goal of narrowing the street, so people are forced to go slowly through there. And also, we've added, I think, raised crosswalks in this area as well. So if you want to go back up. Beth.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention this. This would allow us to have a sidewalk plus space for outdoor dining, like year-round, without having to take parking spaces. So to me, this was like, I mean, I don't think we could have gotten better in terms of a concept design, in terms of getting everything that we,
So is the idea
we
too,
really
when
wanted to see.
when the lanes get narrower, the traffic slows down?
yeah,
You just have to.
right, you have to go slower. Yep.
So that's the conceptual plan there. You'll see also,
Raised crosswalk here at Starbucks, and then a raised crosswalk down here at Century Bank.
and then on the bridge, rather than, the crosswalks, the sidewalk is narrower there, but we're adding in a bike lane as well to hook up with the Tribe Community Bike Path that runs right there. And you'll see also in this picture conceptual plans for some type of, deck or, it's a little aggressive here, but, some type of viewing to increase that area, so overlooking the pond as well, so people could enjoy that, for relaxation. Go ahead.
I thought I saw, there's something about preserving the brick sidewalks, but in thinking of extending them, would that also maintain a non-brick sidewalk that's a little bit more accessible?
Yeah, so I think we talked a little bit,
Yeah,
so we haven't really gotten into
we haven't gotten into
materials,
those
but
details
I think
yet.
everyone recognizes that brick is hard to maintain, it's slippery, so it'd be some type of, additional material used for those bump outs of those sidewalks.
It's also expensive.
Yeah. So that would be Main Street, the idea there. And then the next one would be Thompson Street. So there's a couple of different ideas here. And when I initially saw this, I wasn't too keen on it. But then seeing Thompson Plaza as well, in addition to this, I think this does make sense. So there's, obviously Thompson Street's a narrow street. There's commerce up and down it. Right now, we have 2 sides of parking, so just trying to address it so that it's, more accessible. So they've come up with the flush street concept, and so this is, one side, we have parking, and essentially, it's kind of like Assembly Row, where you have, the sidewalk on grade with the street, and it allows for, if you wanted to close it off, it allows for just, people to kind of slowly go through there. But we maintain at least one side of parking, and the parking spots that we lose in this area can be made up at Thompson Plaza. But we would, increase the bump outs on the sidewalks, make them shorter on both ends, allow for outdoor dining by the restaurants that we have on the corner there, like Black Horse Tavern, and, Fuller Cup would also have, some extended sidewalk access. And the merchants could also come out onto the sidewalk as well. So, kind of a neat contact. There's another option,
These are just some
ideas.
examples that they showed.
One, I think this is a zigzagged kind of concept rather than just, a straight line. You can zigzag it that way. Again, we would need public input on this, but just, an idea, concept-wise. And then Thompson Plaza is kind of just revamping this, area of town. Essential with the mailboxes there, but essentially any of the parking that we're losing on Thompson Street, we've made up in this area by just redesigning a little bit. We would put in a dedicated load zone, shorten the sidewalks there, as you can see, narrow it, so it's more pedestrian-friendly bump out in front of Black Horse and the post office. You know, and, you know, I think we gained 5 parking spots here, maybe, I think, or 8, something like that, by doing this. We would still have maintained the mailboxes there, but essentially, you know, that would kind of be the design with those bump outs. So, I mean, I thought, you know, personally, I was excited to see this, and I wanted to just share, get some feedback from all of you, because I think sometimes when we start talking about these projects that were happening in the Center Business District, such as, you know, 10 Converse, Waterfield, or the train station, I think it's nice for everyone to see, you know, where potentially we could go as a town, and where, you know, these individual projects might fit in. So just seeking, I mean, Mike and I were part of this committee, we saw this, I just wanted to seek, you know, feedback from the rest of the board on your preliminary thoughts on this.
I think Thompson Street could be really cool. You know, this is a gathering place for more people and just get more of that marketplace kind of feel. Seems like it's the most logical place, sort of central. I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, I think that my only issue with the Thompson Street is that there's too much parking, and having all the cars there just makes it uninviting for people to walk. And I think, you know, making it a true shared street where there's only like loading type parking, and all the other time you know you have to drive 3 miles an hour because that's what people are walking, right? It's a shared street, flush, and only 10-minute you can stop and get whatever you need, and then you have to keep moving. I mean, we don't have a shortage of parking, right? I mean, in the busiest times, 1 out of every 3 parking spots in the town center are empty. So I think that taking Thompson Street and making it more inviting for pedestrians, and I think it's a really good opportunity here. So I'm fine with keeping the parking on Main Street. That is a main thoroughfare, so that makes sense. But Thompson, I think there's an opportunity to make something that is really, that invites people to walk there and to go into the shops rather than being faced. And stay, exactly, instead of being faced with all these cars that they have to like dodge around to walk. So, especially with so much parking nearby, the Berjona lot is right there, and it's, again, on weekends it's 2/3 empty, the town center. On weekdays, it's 1/3 empty, so all the parking spots.
Yeah, and I hear you, Mariano, and you keep saying that, and I get it. The issue is, though, that we don't have a crystal ball of what happens when the new train station is built. We don't have what will happen when Waterfield is, if that's built, if 10 Converse Place comes in, or Fells comes in, when these projects that are on the docket right now get built. If we're adding 250 units downtown, you know, we're certainly not looking to increase public parking, but we're certainly not, you know, I don't think we're in a position to, you know, remove much of it. Now, certainly, you know, ideas on Thompson Street are certainly, you know, good ideas. I mean, 15-minute, you know, parking, run in, I mean, what do people use Thompson Street for mostly? You know, get Starbucks, coffee, stuff like that, run in, you know, very targeted shopping. Those could be considered, but, you know, I think we're comparing apples and oranges by saying, you know, it's 1/3 full, 2/3 full, because it's just not the case. Even with these road closures, I mean, on Saturday, when you came down here, Saturday night, with the MBTA taking up that one side at Aberjona lot, it was pretty much full all the way down to Ginn Park. You come down Shore Road right now, I saw one email that came in today, you know, people complaining about the high school kids. You know, this is the time of year where juniors get their licenses and they don't have parking, so they park in Shore Road, they park in Stop and Shop. So, you know, certainly, I don't think anyone's sitting here saying we need, you know, a 5-story parking garage, but I think we need to, you know, at least maintain the same level of parking while we go through these developments. And then if we come out on the under end of this and, you know, the car goes away, the MBTA gets their act together, and we have robust, you know, rail service, bus service, we have a shuttle, then yeah, maybe that's a conversation. But I think as we sit here today and planning in the next, you know, 4 to 5 years, I think we have to be really careful about saying that we don't have a parking problem, because we don't know. We're sitting here at the end of COVID with a closed train station with all these developments pending. I think it's very dangerous to say, you know, we don't have a parking problem, or we're not going to have one in the future, because once we start building this stuff, we run out of space to do this.
We didn't have the parking problem when the study was done before COVID, with the train station open, and we don't have a parking problem now. what you're saying is we might have a parking problem in the future, so, and I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't say that you're wrong, because again, neither of us knows that, right? But we know up till now, we've never had a parking problem anytime we've looked at it, right? So what I'm saying is Thompson Street, I'm not saying let's get rid of all on-street parking on Main Street or the Rotary or anywhere else. I'm saying there's a real opportunity to make Thompson Street a welcoming, pedestrian-first street where cars can still go, but they have to yield to pedestrians, right? Pedestrians first. There's no crosswalk on it. There's no, it's a sidewalk that you can drive on at 3 to 5 miles an hour, and there's a couple of spots that you can stop for 15 minutes to go into, Fuller Cup and get your coffee, or go pick up the soccer jersey at Sweet Surprise, right, for that targeted thing. But if you want to park for an hour, go to the Arizona lot and then walk and go to multiple places.
Yeah, I think part of this study, is looking, and we've already implemented some of the recommendations from Tool. Part of this study is looking at our parking, the radius downtown, and how we divvy up parking. Whether we have targeted, parking for targeted shopping on the Main Street area, like 30-minute parking. I mean, that's all stuff that's under consideration that will need to be vetted, over the next year or two, and certainly with the input of the public. But I just hear you talk about that parking study, and we're talking about something that was done, before I think we had one restaurant at the time, and we didn't have any of these planned residential developments. So I just want to be careful. I think we're on the same page, but I just want to be careful in saying that we don't have a parking problem, because I think there's a lot of business owners, including myself, who ends up, if I'm not there by 8:30 parking on Skeelings Road, that we do have somewhat of a parking problem. So I just want to be cautious in saying that. So, any event, this is where we're at conceptually. I think we're just looking for a little feedback from the board if this is a direction where we see widening sidewalks, traffic calming measures, shared street concepts. If this is some direction that this board sees us heading towards, and again, I'd like to use this as we start framing issues concerning Waterfield and other projects, and seeing how that fits into the big picture for the Center Business District. See if anyone has any issues with that.
I would love to see it become more pedestrian friendly. Really encourage people to be out and walking through, and not just running. Yes, if we have 15-minute, go run in and grab your coffee, but not just people coming in to get a coffee and leaving Winchester Center, but coming through, parking, walking down Thompson Street to the businesses that are there. Potentially that would encourage a variety of businesses to come in, because I know we've had spaces there that have been sort of rotating, and really get people into Winchester Center and into businesses. And I think making it more accessible for people, both in sidewalk design, in safety of crossing. I think when we talk about parking, also like handicap parking and accessibility, so that people who would feel more comfortable walking on non-brick sidewalks and flatter, wider sidewalks are able to park and to do those things and get in.
Okay, no, absolutely. Any other thoughts?
The only thing I would say is, obviously, we don't have any money for all this, right? So it probably makes sense if we're going to do some of this to kind of prioritize some of these options. And I would prioritize where we're widening the sidewalks on Main Street, and where we can pull those the outdoor dining onto the sidewalk, open up the sidewalks. That, first of all, driving through Main Street, if you're sitting out there at First House and somebody is driving on Main Street at 45 miles an hour, I mean, it doesn't feel great, right? So, and we're also taking up parking spaces. So for those businesses that have, retail business and, not food establishment, it feels like your customers can't park in front of your business and you're losing business. So I think that that's a priority for us. We're dealing with, perception as much as we are, parking. So I think everybody has a different sense of whether there's a parking problem or not, but, I think we can there's some low-hanging fruit there. If we can, look for some state funding, I don't even know if there's a Mass Works grant or something that we could, apply for this, but, that I think is something that everybody would immediately benefit from, is that sidewalk project, which looks awesome. And the other part of our, to Anthea's point, I mean, our sidewalks, are nice that they are brick, but they're not accessible, and they're dangerous. So, that's not good either. So, we've got a couple priority, issues to resolve. So maybe that's something that we can kind of, get a sense of too as we move forward.
Yeah, what's the next step? How do we put a number on how much each of these things cost?
So, yeah, I think, we can work with Tool to put together a request for capital planning, I think, to design that Main Street section, which seems to be kind of the highest priority. I think everybody kind of feels like that would be a great win if we could get that piece done. It's not gonna be a small number.
Yeah, and I think, letting our state delegation know as well, of this, maybe there's money for design plans in the Build Back Better plan, or state ARPA funds. I mean, I know there's plenty of money out there. It's just, if this is something that would qualify for that, design costs at least, so.
There's
working with
usually
them.
more money also, once it is shovel-ready, right? There can be a lot of grant money that is ready to
Yep.
to put a project, right? And we've been very successful in the past
Yep.
with having that, right? So.
Yeah, so I think the next step would be have Tool put together a proposal for
Yep.
some type of design. Right.
So Rich, do you usually assign like a champion to different things? Like, I'm gonna call Catherine Clark tomorrow, I'm gonna talk to her, or I'm gonna ask her for the money, I'm gonna get more details on it.
Yeah.
But definitely, $5 million, she's the second most powerful person in Congress.
Do it.
Oh, absolutely, but like this, who's gonna own that? Because a lot of projects come out, and we talk about them, they're great, and they get to a certain point, and then they sort of run out of gas. Not always, but sometimes, whether it's here or in our personal lives or whatever. So, is that the plan, Mariano or Michael? How's it been handled in the past?
We have our work plan that we'll probably talk about in the next, couple
you assign it.
weeks, and we'll all just talk about what people have interest in and what they want to do and what they.
Yeah, I think big picture, we're looking at, contemporaneous with Springtown meeting is to sit down and start talking about goals, talk about our work plan, what, as Mike said, what everyone's interests are, and then kind of, I think it would make sense to have, one or two board members try to champion and further those projects and, set goals for the board for the year, and see where we are.
Yeah.
And just, follow that plan as we move forward. It's just kind of challenging right now with town meeting and, cleaning up some of this other stuff that's been, hanging around, and, we have these never-ending Eversource and National Grid projects and stuff. And I know Beth and Mark have done a phenomenal job of, navigating a lot of this stuff on their own. So we have limited, we're lean and mean, so
Yeah,
we can't throw too many things at them at once.
Oh, no, I agree, that's why I was referring more to us than
Yeah.
town staff.
So I think the focus, now is, town meeting, which was a good segue into our next and final agenda item, but, but I think it's a point well taken, John. I think that's a proper way to do it, is to have, divide and conquer kind of. All right, so if there's nothing else on that, we'll move towards the warrant article votes. So just so everyone is aware, I was supposed to appear tomorrow at FinCom to discuss the select board articles, but apparently they are still working on budgets, so they've canceled my appearance tomorrow. So I can stay with the Boy Scouts a little longer tomorrow, as there's an Eagle Scout ceremony that I'm going to be at, so that's good. But I will be at FinCom maybe the week after, just talking about our select board warrant articles. Answering questions from FinCom, but the purpose of tonight is just to take a preliminary look at the articles for Springtown meeting and see if we can, vote some select board position. I'll say right off the bat, I think there's a couple that we should, delay any type of vote on. one for me, and, you know, certainly weigh in here, would be Article 8, which is the citizens petition. I know there's an informational session on Wednesday night that, you know, I look forward to attending, and just getting a little bit more information before we weigh in on that one. And then also.
Is that a Zoom meeting or something? Or?
Yeah, it's a Zoom meeting. You have to pre-register with the Network for Social Justice, and then they'll send you the link for the actual meeting. But just to get a little information on that. And then also, the Articles 26 and 27, the carriage house and the Parkhurst school alterations. Again, radio silence from the school committee. I don't know, if Beth, if you've received anything?
We have not, no.
We've heard nothing, so a little flying. I guess we're in no different position than we were last week in that. So, I mean, I think, you know, I would wait a little bit and see if any more information comes in. I'm not sure if anyone else has any position on those two articles at this point in time, if that sounds like a good plan.
26 and 27?
Yeah.
It's no different than last week.
Okay. So you want to just run through these in order?
You know, on Articles 26 and 27, I mean, obviously we need to wait, but, you know, one question that maybe we can ask the superintendent is, you know, what's the backup plan here? Because if it doesn't pass, you know, like, we need to have a general sense, is it, you know, moving into town hall? Is it, you know, renting space somewhere? I know the superintendent had, in October, had told us that there was a backup plan. It's just, I don't know why it's not public at this point, but, you know, it's, and, you know, if there isn't one, then, you know, we need to be prepared to facilitate that either with space or resources or whatever, so. If that makes sense. No?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, nothing's changed. I mean, I'm troubled.
Yeah.
At this point, we're a week later and we have no new information, so I don't know what.
Well, we still need to, you know, get the Lynch project going, get the kids into Parkhurst, and get the administration out of there. So those are the things at least we know are true. So if the carriage house project doesn't develop, the administration needs to go somewhere, right? So.
Yeah, and I guess I'm a little confused on 27, not to jump ahead, but on
Yeah.
27, if that cost is for, you know, the kids to take over Parkhurst completely, or is that for central office to stay there and have, you know, some kids go into Parkhurst and then rent more modulars and leaving some kids at Lynch?
I think it's to have all of the kids over at Parkhurst. I think there was a general sense that splitting the kids up into two different locations would be bad, especially, you know,
So then,
during
if Article 26 fails and Article 27 passes.
Yes.
Where does central office go?
That's my question. So there's gotta be some sort of backup plan that we may have to implement in some way, and it may involve town hall, I mean, I really don't know. I have no idea, so it may, but we were told in October that there was a backup plan. I don't know when that's gonna be hitting prime time.
All right, well, let's go through some of the stuff that we do have information on.
So in the past, we've done one motion for like multiple articles so if you know, if articles are not.
Yep, so I'm just gonna run through them and then stop me if you wanna discuss any. Does that make sense? Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is our stabilization healthcare fund. 6 is the transfer of Wellfield property to school committee control. And then 7 is to create the retiree health insurance advisory committee. Does anyone have any discussion on those 7 articles? All straightforward? Okay. So can I get a motion to vote favorable action on Articles 1 through 7?
I move that the select board approve the motion language and recommended favorable action for Articles 1 through 7.
Second.
Mariano seconds it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Great. Okay, is everyone okay with tabling Article 8 at this point in time, after that hearing on, excuse me, that information session on Wednesday?
Sure.
Is that
Yeah.
okay?
Will that be discussed prior to town meeting on the 25th?
Yes, that would be my sense, because we may get to it on the 25th. I think it's an outside possibility.
Very
A very
optimistic.
outside possibility, very optimistic. But I think 25th before town meeting would be an appropriate time to talk about that. Okay, so then we've got 9, which is our article, our town manager's article on transfer free cash.
For prior year bills.
Prior fiscal year bills.
That's the one that take 9/10 of a vote, right?
Oh, does it really?
Town meeting?
Yeah. I think it's gonna be indefinitely postponed. I think we don't have anything, so.
Okay. Same thing, 10, appropriate money from the parking meter fund. These are all standard articles. And then we've got 11 to hear capital planning committee report, transfer unexpended capital accounts, appropriate monies for the South Reservoir Dam, as Roger was indicating, for engineering and design. We've got the lead, Article 14 is the lead line replacement program. 15 is the Main Street Bridge railing account. These are all capital projects. Any issues with 9 through 15, or any discussion on 9 through 15? All right, seeing none, could we get a motion to vote favorable action on 9 through 15?
I move that the select board approve the motion language and recommended favorable action for Articles 9 through 15.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, no one opposed. All right, 16. Beth, maybe you might have to help me with 16.
Yeah, so 16 is just cleaning up some old accounts, old MWA accounts, and transferring them to the new East Side sanitary sewer evaluation project.
Okay. And I would imagine some of the stuff's gonna end up on the consent agenda.
I think the ones that are currently on the consent agenda,
Oh,
we
they
haven't
are.
obviously finished the motion book, but
Yep.
the ones that are currently on the consent agenda are checked off on your
Oh, I
little
see them. Okay, I see them
spreadsheet
all
here.
over there.
Yep.
And then 17 is our article on the self-contained breathing apparatus for the fire department to fill their tanks. 18 is the sports court article. Uh, 19 is to transfer free cash to the supplemental FY '22 budget. 20 is to transfer cash to the supplemental Eversource account. 21 is to amend the water sewer rates, as we've previously discussed, 3.5% increase. 22 is to appropriate money from the PEG access cable-related fund. 23 is the FY 2023 budget. Do we vote that now, or we'll wait
I don't
on
think
that,
you
right?
want to
No, we
vote
haven't
that.
seen the
Yeah,
yellow
we haven't
sheet
seen
yet.
anything,
Right,
yeah.
so let's stop at 22 at this point, and see if there's any discussion on any of those articles that we just talked about. Okay, so can I get a motion at the,
Move that the select board approve the motion language and recommended favorable action for Articles 16 to 22.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, great. All right, so 23, 24, and 25 will, and 26, 27 will wait on. Everyone's okay with that? 28 is our, looking for $75,000 for a preliminary Lynch School traffic study. 29 is the personnel, is there anything for the personnel board?
There's actually, yeah, but we're not, you don't have the article yet, so you
Okay.
wouldn't take a position on that
All
one
right,
yet.
so let's, 30, 31, we can't really take a position on at this point either. We haven't seen anything, right?
Well, 30 is just the standard article
Yeah.
that we take
Okay,
whatever, the vote for the building stabilization fund plus 2.5% each year.
okay, so 28 and 30. How about 31? The 2023 revolving fund, same thing? Is that,
Yeah, that's the maximum amount. Well, we haven't seen
right, so,
what it's being set to, though, so that one we probably should wait until we
Okay.
see the number.
So 28 and 30, you might want to
And 30,
Yeah, so 28, 30, I'm just seeing if there's anything else here.
and 32, we should vote yes. I don't
Okay.
think there's ever
Yeah,
any.
32 and 33 are the standard.
Standard, yep,
33 is
chapter
chapter
90.
90.
Yep, okay, so 28, 30, 32, and 33. Any discussion on those? Okay, can I get a motion, Adia, please?
Move that the select board approve the motion language and recommend favorable action on Articles 28, 30, 32, and 33.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. 34 and 35? Are there any,
Is there any amount on 34? Any motion for that?
Well, we don't have we have a draft motion, but it hasn't been published yet. so
Okay.
So we should wait.
all right, so I think, and there's no committee reports or dissolvable committees at this point, right?
I don't believe so.
Okay. All right, so that takes care of town meeting. We'll wait on the other stuff. And then we've got our special town meeting, so I did want to go back on this, just to give an update. I know Beth had put in our memo, just a timeline of what we're thinking for the special town meeting. So it's on page 2. We open at April 25th, and the idea would be to suspend to Monday, May 23rd, with a possible second night of Thursday, May 26th. We would have a select board hearing on the proposed warrant article on Tuesday, May 10th, and then we would aim to get a packet of materials out to town meeting members the week of May 2nd. The reason, for that, slight delay in the special town meeting is we're still negotiating the lease with Civico. We just want to make sure that we have, enough time to get those materials out to the public, go to the different committees and answer questions, and make sure we have enough time to put together a proposal and plan for that special town meeting. So that would be the, right now, the timeline for the special town meeting. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts or any discussion on that.
Unfortunately, the high school is not available for the 23rd and 26th, so McCall School is, so we've booked McCall. The plan is to also have the hearing at McCall, just so people kind of are used to that room, that discussion. So we're just working with the town clerk's office to confirm that everything will work out with the electronic voting technology at the McCall space.
And since, we're still in negotiations with Civico on the lease, I think it's prudent at this point, to not discuss, favorable action or not on the land development agreement at this point, and just wait, get everyone the documents, so everyone's had a chance to look at them, and go from there. That makes sense? Great. Anything else on town meeting? Are we good at this point? Everyone's got their assignments?
We'll have the motion book out this week. And again, the town manager hearing is Thursday night, so invite everybody to come to that.
On the motion book, can you put Mike's name third above mine? I guess he has more tenure than I do.
Sure.
That's how we usually do it.
Yeah.
You should, no, I'm not gonna, yeah.
Alphabetical too, is what you could say, but yeah, I told Jen that's, that.
Whatever.
He's got bigger problems, but thanks.
All right. So I think that's everything on our agenda tonight. Yep.
I just wanted to mention that the board did receive a report from Swim Winchester. It's their semi-annual report and kind of where things are, so just so you're
Okay.
up to speed with that project.
And if we could just distribute that to them.
Yeah, yes, I had one to review it with you.
Oh, okay.
There's one that's 4 pages and the other one's 34. Okay. Do you want the full complete thing?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Okay.
We'll take it.
And do we have the header on our website for those updates and those things as well?
For Swim Winchester?
Yeah, for Swim
That's a good
Winchester.
question. I will check about that.
Good to drop it in there, because I know that the neighborhood is gonna be interested.
Actually, all of that is, even if it's in an odd place, but when I do our agenda and I put all the attachments to it, that is also will be on it.
Oh, okay, great.
I didn't receive it until today, so it's not there
Okay.
right now, but.
Thanks, Patty. You see our future agenda items on there, some of the stuff we talked about tonight a little bit. We've got Wednesday, we've got Brian Sekeli on Zoom, if those of you can make it, just doing, a presentation on the draft Department of Housing Community Development Guidelines. We're gonna continue our discussion on ARPA funding. We've got the 87-89 Cross Street 40B update. Select Board Committee assignments, Charter Review Committee, staff evaluations, and then the work plan. And, we'll add goals to that as well. I don't know if anybody's got any other items, certainly let us know. But those would be kind of for our regular meetings, that once we get through town meeting, start, picking off some of this stuff as well. Make sense? All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Have a great night. Thank you, WinCam. Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Anthea, for all your motions.